Magic is a force so great and majestic that people say it is the trace left behind by God himself. It is such a rare gift that only one child in 10,000 receives it. Our hero was not only a mage, but also the emperor of an entire empire. But everything changed when he was betrayed and thrown into prison with anti-magic shackles. Ian thought his life was over, but his magic teacher came to save him. She sacrificed her life using a forbidden spell to send him back in time. However, things did not go according to plan, and instead of returning to his body 10 years ago, our hero ended up in the body of a bastard from a noble family that disappeared 100 years ago. What's more, he is about to be traded as a hostage to a barbarian clan. Now Ian must reclaim his lost throne using his wits, cunning, knowledge of the future, and of course his powerful magic. He stands up and looks around, unfamiliar with both the place and the people. When he sees his reflection in the mirror, he does not even recognize the face staring back at him. The man, who appears to be his father, scolds him for embarrassing him in public, and tells him to behave properly in front of the emperor, since the family registration process needs to go smoothly. Seeing our boy's blank and puzzled face, the man hands him an imperial edict. He explains that he has not shown it before because our hero cannot read. The MC still cannot fully grasp what is happening, but then his eyes catch the date written on the paper, and with a wave of shock, he realizes that he has somehow returned to a time nearly 100 years earlier. Our boy barely has time to react when his stepbrother snatches the letter straight from his hands, while pointing out that he does not even know how to read it. Before our hero can say anything, his father, the Count Durga Brock, steps in and warns him not to let them down. He stresses how much effort it took to bring the central administrator just for his registration, so the least he could do is behave properly. Meanwhile, in the background, the maids are whispering amongst themselves. They seem worried for the MC, as it's his first time dealing with something like this, and hope everything goes smoothly without any issues. But our boy's mind is already somewhere else. He is still trying to process everything that has changed, from the unfamiliar year he has landed in, to the imperial emblem he does not recognize, and even the unfamiliar face staring back at him from the mirror. Still, deep down, he is almost certain this mess has something to do with Naum's space-time magic. Later, when everyone settles around the dining table, our hero eats quietly. But it's impossible to ignore the eyes on him as his stepbrother and stepmother watch his every move. After being locked up and starved for so long, he has forgotten how to eat with grace, and it shows. Surprisingly, Molin, their guest, comments positively on his table manners, catching everyone off guard. The Count tries to make the most of the situation, and hopes Molin will speak well of their family when he returns to the Emperor. Molin then brings up philosophy and mentions how it's becoming quite popular in the capital. He then turns to Chell, the MC's stepbrother, and asks who his favorite philosopher is. Chell hesitates. Our boy can tell that Molin is trying to know the education standards of the Count's household, so he shares his favorite philosopher, who is someone named Philin. Molin is a little surprised to hear that. Our hero explains that Philin's ideas about humanism are a good base for anyone aspiring to understand leadership, and in his opinion, if Molin reads it from that angle, he will understand how it ties into the making of an ideal monarch. That catches Molin's attention. He finds it impressive that the MC, who seems so young and new to this place, knows about philosophy that is still just starting to catch on in the capital. It makes him wonder if the education standards in the Count's household are higher than he expected. The Count chuckles and mentions that Molin is simply overestimating them. But Molin continues to praise our boy, as he thinks that not only the Emperor, but even the Eastern barbarians would be impressed by someone like him. Upon hearing that, our hero remembers that those barbarians are the Heavenly Warrior clan. There is only one place in the entire empire where their land meets the Empire's, and that is the Brock territory. He recalls how things played out before and how the Brock family had signed a peace treaty with the clan by sending over a child as a hostage. That child was none other than Ian himself, a bastard son brought into the family for the sake of that deal. Right then, the Count turns to him and hopes the MC will serve as a symbol of peace. Our boy simply smiles and agrees. But as soon as meal ends, Chell snaps. Out of nowhere, he lashes out and accuses our hero of humiliating him and acting like he is someone important just because he has become a part of their family. The MC points out that if he had not been brought into the family, it would have been Chell sent to the barbarians instead. That hits a nerve. Chell grabs a nearby vase and hurls it at him. A sharp piece grazes our boy's cheek, leaving a scratch. Chell does not stop there and throws insult after insult, calling him garbage and mocking him for acting up, even going as far as to insult his mother. At that point, our hero's patience runs out. His magic stirs on its own, raw and unstable, and Chell stumbles back. The MC gives him a cold warning that age does not excuse everything, and if he keeps running his mouth, he will lose more than just his pride. Chell backs off as he is shaken. Just then, Molin opens the door and invites them for refreshments, but he freezes when he catches a glimpse of our boy's magic. A moment later, the Count and his wife rush in, catching sight of the situation from Molin's expression. The Count demands to know what happened. Chell starts to mumble, still shaken, while our hero reminds him to be careful around vases and offers a hand to help him up. The Count turns to the maid Hannah and tells her to take the MC to his room. As our boy walks out, the Count scolds Chell for being careless, and Molin watches our boy with unreadable eyes. Hannah leads our hero to a plain, dull room. As they enter, she asks if he has a letter for his mother. He looks confused, so she explains that he used to cry every day and begged her to let him send a letter since he was not allowed to go outside. Upon hearing that, he realizes that the boy whose body he is in was being held like a prisoner, kept away from the outside world to prevent escape. He then assures her he won't cry anymore, but Hannah surprises him by suddenly begging for food. Her younger siblings are starving, according to her, and they only eat when he gives up his meals. She pleads with him to show mercy. He agrees, but on one condition. She must help him later if he asks. She nods without hesitation, thanks him, and leaves. Now alone in the room, he finally lets himself relax. He is drained already. The space-time magic should have returned him to where the spell was cast, but instead, it has thrown him much farther into the past and even to a completely different location. And to make things worse, he is stuck in a body that does not belong to him. He needs answers, and the only lead he has is what now mentioned about the Ministry of Magic in the Imperial Palace. One way or another, he plans to get there. He then decides to give magic a try, just to see if the body he is now in is capable of using it. To his surprise, it actually works. What makes it even stranger is that he has ended up in a rare kind of body, one that can use magic naturally. And on top of that, the boy's name is Ian too, just like him. A little while later, there is a knock at the door as Hannah has brought him his meal. He tells her to leave it at the door, and once she is gone, he steps out to pick it up. Right away, he notices that part of the meal is missing. It's clear Hannah helped herself to a small portion as her usual fee. Even so, what is left feels way too little to be filling. That is when he remembers that during lunch earlier, there was not any gula on the menu. Gula is a plant full of nutrients, and it's considered one of Burial Empire's staple foods. People used to avoid it because of the poisonous seeds and treated it like an annoying weed. But once someone figured out how to safely prepare it, the number of deaths from starvation dropped by a huge margin. Our hero knows that this discovery won't happen for another 50 years or so. He starts thinking that if he can share that knowledge early, maybe he can help prevent the Empire's future famines altogether. Not long after, he is called to the Count's office. There, the Count tells him about a banquet that's scheduled in a few days, with some important guests from the central region who will be attending. Our boy promises to behave and not cause any problems for the family. The Count then tosses a pouch filled with coins toward him and tells him it's money sent by his mother, along with a letter. Since the MC cannot read, he is told to ask his tutor to read it for him. The Count also promises that, if he performs well, he might be allowed to see his mother's face before leaving for training. Then, a servant appears and calls for the Count, who exits the room. Left alone, our hero starts feeling a bit sorry for the boy whose body he now has control over. As he looks around the office, he notices some documents lying on the desk. He picks them up and begins reading. One of the papers mentions a second account book, and right away he realizes that the Count has been secretly pocketing tax money that should have gone to the central government. He realizes that must be why Moline traveled all the way from the capital to this place. Just then, the Count returns. Our boy freezes for a second, thinking he is about to get caught snooping. But before anything happens, the lights suddenly go out as his magic activates without him even trying. The servant who has returned with the Count assumes the lights just went bad and moves to light a candle. But while doing so, he trips over something, and the papers he was carrying scatter across the floor. The Count tells him to pick them up, but then senses someone else in the room. He opens the curtains and sees the MC standing there. His eyes fall on the coin pouch in his hand, and the papers still on the desk. He asks our hero what he has been doing there all this time. The MC simply replies that the Count never told him to leave. The Count then tells him that the Heavenly Warrior tribe has requested a letter with his signature. He wants him to send letters to them every now and then, as he finds them troublesome to deal with otherwise. He adds that our hero's tutor will handle the content, and he just has to copy it. After that, our boy is dismissed. As he leaves the office, something keeps bothering him. He thinks about the reason for the mother to send a letter written on such an expensive paper if the boy cannot even read. He then reads the letter, which talks about how she is doing fine, thanks to the Count. She asks about his health, tells him to treat Chell kindly and try to be his friend. There is also a request she has made. This confirms the MC's suspicions that something is off, and he gets determined to get to the bottom of it quickly. 2 days later, guests arrived for the dinner. They are two men named Dagor and Mac. At the dining table, Molin compliments our hero on his outfit. Our boy replies that he has been looking forward to this event and is genuinely curious about life in the capital. Mac then asks him what exactly he is curious about. Our boy shares that he wants to understand more about how capable people from the capital really are, and asks about the kind of food they eat there. Daegor tells him that the food in the capital is not anything fancy, and it's just like in the countryside, where wealthy people eat well, while others eat what they can afford. He adds that it would be interesting to see some new types of dishes being introduced. The MC suggests that maybe things people usually consider inedible could be turned into something special. After all, he thinks there is no real ranking when it comes to things from nature, and anything that helps fill empty stomachs should be appreciated. Mac points out that our hero sounds a lot like the second prince, Gale Veroshin. That name sticks with our boy as he remembers how that prince from history led magicians in a rebellion, which eventually failed. Now he starts to wonder if these three are secretly supporters of the prince. While he knows getting close to traitors won't do much good, he figures he might still be able to use them for his own benefit. After the meal, Moline asks the Count for permission to have a private talk with our boy while getting some air. The Count is surprised but agrees and even decides to send Chell along. Moline does not object. Outside, Chell is already sweating from the long walk. Mac reassures him that the destination is close and offers to take a short break. He leads Chell to a nearby tree to rest, with Daegor following behind, leaving the MC and Moline to go ahead first. As they reach the lake, Moline mentions something he saw earlier in the room about how our hero's eyes had turned gold. He asks if he can use magic. Our boy acts like he does not know what he is talking about. Moline explains that Prince Gale has always had a deep interest in magic users since they are so rare. The MC then asks if that is really all Moline wants to know, because he is pretty sure there is more he is holding back. Moline stays quiet, not answering. Our hero then mentions that he is aware that Moline is there to investigate the fake accounts, and he proposes a deal. There is something our boy wants too, and this might be their chance to strike a bargain. Moline is intrigued by the MC's offer and gets straight to the point. He demands to know if our boy will really hand over Brack's second ledger. But our hero does not just nod along. He wants to know what he is getting in return because tax evasion is no small issue. If things go south, he could easily get caught in the crossfire, and he is not willing to take that kind of risk without something solid to gain. Moline tells the MC that he is not officially part of the Brock family yet, and reassures him that if he decides to step back from the adoption and simply lets things stay as they are, there is no reason for him to face death or get dragged off to the Heavenly Warriors clan. But that is not what our boy wants. He is thinking ahead, and he wants to protect himself from the harsh consequences tied to the Imperial Palace while still finding a way to claim ownership of the territory. So instead, he plans to approach the Heavenly Warriors clan without going through official family registration. Moline pauses, as he is surprised by our hero's direction. He asks if he is truly serious about joining the barbarians. Our boy is. He knows once Moline reports Brock's embezzlement, the first person the Count will suspect will be him, especially because he has been close with Moline. That is why he is aiming to align himself with the Heavenly Warriors, as they have never had good ties with the Brock family or the Imperial Palace, which makes them a good option for support. Not to mention, being one of the strongest warrior clans, they are a powerful ally to have. Deep down, he also knows that if things go bad, neither Moline nor anyone else will step up to protect him or his mother. Moline goes quiet for a moment, as he did not expect such a sharp and bold answer from the MC. After a short pause, he excuses himself to go check on Chell, who still has not shown up. Our boy knows that his response must have hit harder than Moline thought, but he does not stop him, as he has other things to take care of. As Moline turns to leave, our hero tells him that he will stay a bit longer. Moline suggests that he take a moment to look around his hometown before leaving for good. That makes the MC think back to the time when the Brock family began to fall apart. Given his current position, he cannot even go near the Imperial Palace, so he decides he might as well make the most of this opportunity. His goal is clear: win over the Heavenly Warriors clan, use the second ledger to contribute to the Count's downfall, and use that momentum to push himself further into the palace. He then spots a cloaked figure nearby. He approaches and realizes it's his mother. She is there because Hannah passed along our boy's message and told her to wait. She checks on him and asks if he is all right. He tells her that he is doing fine and that he received everything she sent. Then, he apologizes for not keeping in touch more often, pulls out a pouch of gold coins, and asks if she was the one who sent them. She shakes her head as there is no way she could have saved up that much. He hands it over anyway and tells her to start preparing to leave and plans to pass on the details about timing through Hannah. She senses something is going on and tells him that if he is planning to escape the Count's household, then he should just go. She remembers how painful it was to send him there, and if things have gotten difficult for him, she does not want him to suffer. But he reassures her that he is not trying to run away. He just wants her to trust him, and promises that he is doing what he believes is right. She then notices that his eyes seem to glow gold for a moment. But just then, Moline calls out to our hero from a distance. The MC tells his mother to collect some gula seeds, as they will be useful for her later. He then wishes goodbye and reminds her to take care until they meet again. Before leaving, she hands him a small flower pot he used to look after. He accepts it and thanks her. The next morning, our boy walks with Chell and chats about how their bodies did not look great the day before, and thanks Chell for getting permission from the Count to visit the training grounds. As Chell asks about the training, he assures him that the captain will adjust things accordingly. When they reach the training grounds, they find the captain still half asleep. He opens his eyes lazily and stumbles toward them to ask why Chell is there. Chell explains that he just came to check things out, but the captain points out that Chell never showed up before. There is a noticeable smell of alcohol around him, and Chell picks up on it quickly. He reminds the captain that as the Count's successor, he can come and go as he pleases. He then tells him that since he is not feeling great physically, he is determined to train. The captain tells them to follow him and gives them a tour. He shows them the largest training ground, the warehouse, and a break room behind it where the trainees rest after overnight practice. As they walk through, they come across a group being scolded and harshly trained. The MC and Chell soon learn that the group consists of orphans. The captain jokes that if our boy had not been lucky, he could have ended up with them. Our boy looks to Chell and asks what he thinks about it. Chell clearly does not like the idea and tells the captain not to joke about such things. As our hero watches, one trainee stands out who is still upright while the others are exhausted. Theo, the captain, points him out. His name is Barrick, and apparently he is a real handful. Barrick's outburst is not something anyone can shrug off. After watching him completely lose control, even Chell starts to realize that Barrick is not just some angry guy, but there is more to him than it seems. Theo, though, remains unimpressed. He sees Barrick as someone full of effort, but lacking natural ability. According to him, there are certain things in life that cannot be achieved no matter how hard one tries. And knowing when to step back is just as important as pushing forward. Staying in your lane, as Theo puts it, is sometimes necessary. His tone makes it clear that this is not just advice, but it sounds more like a warning aimed at our hero. And the MC senses it too, but brushes the comment aside and suggests they rest under the shade now that the day's training is over. Watching Barrick reminds him a bit too much of himself. He brings up what Theo said earlier, that if luck had not been on his side, he could have easily ended up in Barrick's shoes. He then heads over to talk to Barrick, but Barrick is not in the mood. He immediately tells him to back off. Our hero points out that Barrick is being disrespectful but lets it slide, as he knows he is too worked up at the moment to talk sense. Once again, Barrick tells him to leave him alone. This time, the MC pours a few drops of water on Barrick's lips. The thing with magic is that while it's dangerous to normal people, those with even a tiny bit of affinity can sense it differently. Their body reacts, either accepting or rejecting it, and our boy is curious to see which way Barrick goes. And just as he expected, the reaction is there. It's subtle, but he can feel that there is something inside Barrick, some faint trace of a magic swordsman. Barrick snaps, throws the container aside, and demands to know what our hero gave him. The MC tells him it's nothing serious, then walks off, satisfied. He can already see Barrick slowly regaining some of his strength, and Barrick feels it too that there is a noticeable shift, a strange sense of renewed energy pulsing through him. Later, our hero takes a moment to write a letter to his mother. He assures her that he is doing fine and hopes that she remains healthy until he returns home. Along with the letter, he writes out the lyrics of a song he likes. His tutor compliments the thoughtfulness. But something seems off. The tutor feels distracted, almost as if he has got something urgent to take care of. The MC notices it and asks about it, which catches the tutor off guard. He then explains that the tutor just seems different than usual. Then he brings up Central Barrel University, and guesses that the tutor might have some connection to someone there. But he makes sure to add that it's okay if the tutor does not want to answer. The tutor does not say much and leaves soon after, accidentally dropping a document as he walks away. Back at the training ground, our boy and Chell are doing laps. Chell is clearly running out of breath and struggles to keep up, but Theo insists they keep going for at least another 30 minutes. Just then, something catches their attention as Barrick charges at someone while gripping a wooden sword tightly. He swings without holding back and attacks over and over again. The other guy deflects his blows easily, then throws Barrick aside and tells him to calm down. The guy's name is Mayral, and when Barrick calls him by name, it clearly sets him off. Mayral kicks Barrick to the ground and keeps going, all while warning him that if he keeps acting out like this, he is going to get himself killed. As Mayral leaves, our hero moves toward Barrick again, only to get told yet again to stay away. But he does not listen and tells Barrick that if he seriously wants to defeat someone like Mayral, he needs to come up with a strategy. Barrick does not take it well. He assumes the MC is telling him to resort to something sneaky. He makes it clear that he is not into cowardly tactics like that. Our boy gets that this is how Barrick works. Barrick picks up the sword again and warns him to shut up or get hurt. But our hero does not back off and mentions that watching Barrick like this is hard for him. Then, without pushing too much, he offers to help, but only if Barrick agrees to return the favor. At the same time, he places his hand on Barrick's head and activates his magic. Barrick does not waste a moment. He leaps high into the air and charges straight at Mayral. Meryl notices the sudden movement and catches sight of Barrick mid-air, but he has no time to react. In the blink of an eye, Barrick crashes into him, pins him to the ground and unleashes a relentless barrage of punches. It's so sudden that everyone around just freezes, watching in stunned silence. But then the shock wears off, and they rush forward to pull Barrick away before it goes too far. Even after being dragged back, Barrick does not resist. He just starts laughing, loud and unbothered, like something he had been holding in for a long time had finally been let out. He blames Meryl for turning his back like an idiot, thinking the fight had already ended. That was a mistake, and Barrick clearly enjoyed making him pay for it. Then Theo steps in and punches Barrick. He orders for Meryl to be taken to the infirmary and for Barrick to be locked up in the punishment room. After that, he turns to the MC and asks if Barrick had actually done anything serious. Our boy shrugs and tells him that Barrick just got an earful of curses earlier. Theo suggests they wrap the training up for the day, as things are clearly off, and there is no point continuing in such a tense atmosphere. Our hero agrees and then asks what kind of punishment Barrick will face. Theo mentions that Barrick has always been a troublemaker, so they will need to talk it through, but he is pretty sure that Barrick will get a whipping and then get kicked out. That was not really our boy's goal. But still, he does not see it as a bad outcome. At least if Barrick is not tied to any group, then it will be easier to use him when the time comes. Not long after, he meets with Moline and others who have made their decision. Moline explains that the Count is sharp, and he is good at sensing when something is off, so they demand evidence before they move forward. Our hero agrees. He lays out a clear plan, according to which he will gather data on the total grain harvest in the territory, the mining results from the mountains in Mon, and the taxes collected from farmers. Moline is pleased to see how serious he is and respects his determination. He believes this effort could really change things for their future. Our boy thanks him sincerely, and becomes more certain that the seal Moline is wearing matches the one on the document the tutor dropped earlier. Now, that the connection between Moline and the tutor is not just a hunch anymore, he plans to use later. On his way from the meeting, he suddenly gets pulled aside. A few nearby workers hear a noise but assume it's nothing more than an animal. But it turns out to be Barrick, who corners the MC against a wall. Our hero finds it odd and asks how he even got inside. Barrick replies that he caused a scene all night, and eventually the head butler gave him permission to enter whenever he wanted. That is when our boy realizes that the Count has likely planted another pair of eyes to watch him. Barrick, on the other hand, accuses the MC of drugging him. He finds it odd that every time they met, his body felt strange, and he refuses to fight anyone by using such underhanded methods. Our hero just smirks and points out that Barrick has spirit but not much sense. He tells him that the water Barrick drank was not anything special, but it came from the usual supply, and after that, he only placed a light hand on Barrick's head. He hints that he knows exactly what Barrick is really curious about. But before saying anything more, he wants him to keep quiet about his golden eyes. The moment Barrick sees our boy's eyes, he flinches and backs away, clearly shaken. The MC tells him that he is not done yet. As for his last condition, he wants Barrick to stick by him as his bodyguard. In return, he promises to help him unlock and control the hidden power inside him. Barrick looks confused, having no idea what our hero is talking about. Our boy asks if he has ever heard of a magic swordsman. Barrick shakes his head. Then the MC asks about magic in general. Still no. So our hero starts explaining that in their world, only a small number of people can resonate with their own soul, and that is what they call magic. He can see that Barrick has that potential, but that same potential is also blocking his energy, which means all the physical training he has done has not really helped him. He thinks what Barrick needs is to connect the energy of his body and soul. Before he can finish, Barrick gets excited. He does not wait for the rest. He just wants to start, and asks our boy to give the command. The MC, though, wants him to think it through, as the journey won't be easy. It will mean crossing borders and leaving everything behind. But Barrick is not worried, as he has nothing. No home, no family. Our hero warns him again that he could die. But Barrick insists that if he does not follow our boy, he will starve to death anyway. The MC likes his answer, and their deal is sealed. To our hero, Barrick is reckless, headstrong, and persistent, and that makes him perfect for the path of a magic swordsman. There is a saying that the best of them are always a little strange. They don't back down, never waste a chance to strike, and don't fear death. And a fighter who does not fear death is someone no one wants to face. With that, their magic contract is complete. The next day, the Count is in the middle of lecturing our hero, but halfway through he notices our boy's attention is elsewhere. The MC indeed is not listening, but his gaze is fixed on the ring on the Count's finger. He has noticed something odd. The Count, for instance, does not seem to care much about jewelry, yet he always wears that particular ring, which does not look anything like a wedding band either. Most rings made from expensive stones are cut to shine and sparkle, crafted in a way that catches the light and screams wealth. But this one is shaped dull and almost flat. That is when he becomes sure that it is not meant for show, but that ring probably serves a specific purpose. Just then, a quiet sound reaches his ears. It's faint but familiar. The same sort of noise he heard back in the Count's office near the drawer. His gaze lingers longer than it should, and the Count picks up on it. He snaps him out of his thoughts and reminds him to focus on the meal. Our hero apologizes and tries to look normal. Changing the subject, the Count asks him about a new friend he has made. The MC tells him about Barrick, how they met during training and quickly got along. But then he adds that, because of the trouble Barrick caused, he thought that he might not be allowed to meet him again. But to his surprise, the Count let him keep seeing Barrick. When the Count asks what exactly happened, our boy shares that Barrick hit someone. His stepmother reacts sharply, as she is not happy about her stepson making friends like that. But surprisingly, the Count does not seem too bothered. He tells our hero that he does not care who his friends are, but he makes it clear that he does care about the MC's studies. Then he gives him a firm warning that if he will not master reading and writing in a month, the Count will blame Barrick for the distraction and have him executed. Meanwhile, over in the garden, our boy's tutor is quietly meeting with Mullen. As their conversation wraps up, our hero shows up and tells the teacher he was actually looking for him. The teacher tries to brush the meeting off as just a casual talk, but the MC had seen them talking for quite a while, and it did not look casual to him at all. He points out that the Brock territory is far from the capital, and the Emperor's control there is limited, which causes constant tension with the Central Powers. Then he threatens the tutor about the consequences if the Count found out that a civil servant from the capital was secretly meeting a private tutor behind the mansion. The teacher gets nervous instantly and asks our boy to just pretend he saw nothing. Our hero agrees, but not for free. He wants the teacher to keep the Count distracted in the garden for at least 30 minutes the next day. And that is not all. Since the teacher knows quite a bit about deserts, he wants him to bring a map of the desert and data on the climate during late spring. He leaves the rest of the details up to the teacher, trusting that he will be able to handle it. After all, the man is not dumb. The teacher, clearly shaken, nods and leaves quietly. That night, the MC starts working on the idea stuck in his head. Using magic, he tries to recreate an image of the Count's ring, going off the rough size he remembers from the Count's hand. It's obviously not easy, as getting the diameter right is one thing and drawing it properly is another. But he puts together a rough sketch and hands it to Hannah. Hannah immediately recognizes that the jewel looks exactly like the one the Count always wears. She even remembers how he never wears a wedding band, just this particular ring. At one point, he even said that he was not fond of diamonds, but it's strange that this ring is definitely diamond, and it's fully cut and has a strange, unique color. She used to stare at it often, trying to understand why it felt different. That makes our boy think harder. He knows that it's weird to make a key from a diamond unless there is a reason for it. Then it hits him that diamonds don't conduct electricity, and if the drawer in the Count's office is locked with some kind of mechanism, something electrical is involved. That would explain why the ring's material matters so much. He thanks Hannah for helping him figure this out, then tells her to ask a carpenter to make a copy of the ring based on his sketch. But this time he wants the ring to be made of wood, with the top layer covered in rubber. The following day, as planned, the teacher leads the Count out to the garden to keep him engaged in conversation. Our hero hides nearby, making sure things are going according to plan. Once everything is clear, he turns to Hannah and asks for the wooden ring. He inspects it and is genuinely impressed to see it turned out better than he expected. He thinks the carpenter must be really skilled. He hands Hannah a few coins and tells her to use them for her siblings' meals. He then turns to Barrick, who is in his usual cranky mood, and gives him some of his magic. Barrick perks up immediately, clearly excited, but the MC tells him to calm down. After warning Barrick to take everything seriously, our boy then slips into the Count's office. He goes straight to the desk, finds the secret drawer, and opens it. Inside, he finds a bunch of documents that look like they are related to the Heavenly Warriors clan. He cannot read the language, but he knows enough to copy down the numbers and marks. He wants to make a version that looks official by stamping it properly. He knows the capital is going to check these against the tax reports the Count submitted. Once he is done, he carefully returns every document to its original place. But just as he is about to leave, there is a knock on the door. Someone steps inside and catches him standing right there. The Count completely loses his temper when he finds out that the aide dared to enter his office after being brought in by him. He orders the head butler to throw the aide out immediately and to confiscate everything he owns, down to the last thing. After that, the entire estate become a mess of noise and activity. Barrick notices the unrest and turns to our boy and asks if the situation with the aide has been dealt with. The MC replies that, although it could have turned into something serious, it has been taken care of. But Barrick is not satisfied. He mutters that he nearly got himself killed because of our hero. Apparently, Barrick had failed to stop the aide in time from entering the Count's office, and our boy had to step in and use magic to knock the man out. And now the Count suspects the aide of snooping around his office. But the MC's focus is on the important matter at hand. The tutor has given him the map drawn by him, and has also forecasted the weather for the area our hero is heading to. There is a high chance of a sandstorm, and he warns our boy to be careful while passing through. Along with the map, the tutor has given him a memo with some contents that the MC is now studying closely. What is bothering him most is the matter of who will become the next matriarch. The topic has been found hidden in the Count's secret drawer, which only makes it seem more important. The letter inside appears to be addressed to someone and talks about recent happenings in the Heavenly Warriors clan. While our boy is lost in thought, Barrick suddenly pulls him out of it with a ridiculous but oddly timed observation that the black stuff is writing, and the white thing is paper. Our hero turns the conversation back on track. He asks Barrick if he has completed the tasks given to him. Barrick lights up and nods proudly. He has secretly burnt the key our boy gave him, handed over the document to Moline, collected the gold from him, and even sent a message to the MC's mother, Philia, telling her to leave immediately and go into hiding. He has also told her to collect and save the gula seeds. Our hero gives him a nod of approval and praises him for doing a solid job. Right then, he notices from the window that some people have arrived. He tells Barrick to leave using the back gate instead of the front, as he thinks that the front is about to get noisy. Not long after, he is summoned by the Count. When he arrives, he is introduced to Balami Sin Nursaran, the envoy from the Heavenly Warriors clan and younger brother of their clan head, Kakantir. Nursaran introduces himself first, and our boy does the same. The Count does not waste time and immediately asks Nursaran why he has come in such a hurry. Nursaran explains that Vice Head Winchen's condition has worsened and is critical, and he is there to push forward the peace discussion before it is too late. With a clear and serious tone, he states that what they are about to discuss will serve as preparation for events to come. In their clan, the death of the vice head carries much more spiritual and emotional weight than even that of the clan leader. While the clan head has fought to earn his position, the vice head is seen as their spiritual leader. If Winchen passes away, their customs demand a full year of mourning, so they hope to settle matters beforehand. The Count admits that the situation sounds serious, but he does not believe it is urgent enough to act, as it does not involve the clan head. Nursaran, however, holds his ground. He stresses that Winchen has guided them with the eye of truth and has earned unmatched respect over the years. If the MC wants the clan's recognition, he has to face Winchen directly, make eye contact, and receive his acknowledgement. At that point, the Count challenges Nursaran's suspicion and asks why he is questioning our hero's bloodline when the official documents have already been sent to them, signed with the Emperor's decree. Nursaran shrugs it off, as he has not even seen the document yet. The Count emphasizes that our boy is the son of his second late wife, and the signature on that decree is not something to be ignored. Still, Nursaran is not convinced. He insists that a piece of paper is not enough for the clan, and they want Winchen herself to verify the MC's bloodline using the eye of truth. Our hero has suspected this from the beginning. It always felt strange to him about how quickly the central administration had added him to the Count's family registry. Now it is clear to him that they have used their influence to prevent suspicion. If Winchen dies soon, he is not sure how that will affect the peace talks. He thinks from the Count's point of view about giving them the registry and lying that there have been a few updates, as it would be better to cooperate. But he cannot tell what the Count is actually planning. Surprisingly, the Count asks for some time, with the excuse that the MC needs to prepare himself mentally. He proposes they continue the conversation the next day. After that, the Count's frustration only grows. He is clearly annoyed at the sudden appearance of the Heavenly Warriors envoy, and especially irritated by Nursaran's distrust toward our hero's background. Climbing into his carriage, the Count sets off to handle the registration documents personally, and instructs our boy to treat Nursaran well while he is away. The MC can tell the Count is planning to move fast, and with him finally gone, he can have the private discussion with the Heavenly Clan that he has been waiting for. Without delay, he approaches Nursaran and hosts a lavish feast in his honor. In the middle of the meal, he brings up a favor that he wants someone to be allowed to accompany him as an escort. But Nursaran shuts it down quickly. He makes it clear that only our hero has been promised to the clan, and anyone else would be nothing but a burden. Our boy does not back down, and assures him that the person he has in mind is not just anyone, but he is certain they can be useful. Nursaran bursts into laughter, but our hero remains calm, completely unbothered by the reaction. That calmness seems to throw Nursaran off a bit, and he gets serious and directly asks him what kind of nonsense he just said. To Nursaran, it sounds like our boy is comparing his escort to their seasoned warriors, and worse, it feels like an insult to their desert itself, expecting them to take two people through harsh terrain who are not even immune to poison and can barely survive without water. Still, the MC does not back down. He tells Nursaran that he knows what he is worried about, and reassures him that the person he is talking about will be of real use. He believes they are capable, just not particularly bright. But even so, he promises Nursaran that neither he nor his escort will cause any problems. Nursaran finally agrees, but only on one condition. Our hero's chosen escort must win a fight against one of his own clan members. Not long after, they gather outside. The youngest member of the clan, Sue, is picked to go up against Barrick. Barrick is not pleased in the slightest. He is annoyed that he has to fight a kid, and on top of that, there is not even a single person who has shown up to watch the match, which makes it even more frustrating. Our boy, however, warns him to stay alert. He tells Barrick not to underestimate his opponent, or he might end up regretting it. Judging by how empty the area is, he realizes that the warriors are basically showing their opinion that the fight is not even worth watching without saying a word. Meanwhile, Nursarin watches quietly from one of the castle windows. The MC notices this too and cannot help but feel irritated. It's obvious that Nursarin is not taking any of this seriously, watching from a distance like it's beneath him. Still, he stays focused on helping Barrick. He uses his magic and tells Barrick to pay close attention as he is about to give him a trick to win the match. After that, Barrick heads over to Sue, and she tells him that he has 5 minutes to knock her down, and if he does, he wins. Barrick is confident that 5 minutes is more than enough. He warns her not to run off crying after losing. Then, without waiting, he charges at her. But Sue is quick. She dodges his attack effortlessly, flips behind him, and teases him that he will be the one crying in the end. As Barrick turns around, she rushes in again. He tries to punch her, but she ducks under it and kicks him straight in the face. She laughs at how slow and dull his movements are, but Barrick is not ready to call it quits just yet. From the side, our hero watches everything unfold. It's clear to him that Barrick is getting beaten badly, and he is not even close to winning. That is when he uses his magic once more and gives Barrick a signal. This time, Barrick reacts fast. He grabs Sue's leg mid-attack and firmly declares that it's his turn now. He slams her down, pins her to the ground, and then starts pinching her cheeks hard. Our boy had simply told him to grab her, but Barrick takes it quite literally. Poor Sue ends up with burn marks on her cheeks from Barrick's magic-enhanced grip. The MC tells her that he will give her something to get rid of the marks later, after she officially accepts defeat and goes to report their victory. Though, he thinks the mark does not look so bad, and it actually makes her stand out in a way. Sue, clearly annoyed and done with the whole thing, accepts defeat and demands that Barrick get off her already. Our hero then tells Barrick to get up and turns his attention back to Nursarin. With the match done, he plans to wrap up the negotiation once and for all. Nursarin clearly feels the sting of disrespect. To him, the way our hero and Barrick handled the sparring session comes off as low and dishonorable, especially when he had made it very clear that it was meant to be a light, friendly match. Our boy offers an apology and explains that he honestly believes it's better for Sue to deal with a few burn marks than to end up with cuts or scars on her face from Barrick's attack. But Nursarin does not take it lightly. He assumes the MC is mocking him and trying to make a fool out of him. Our hero tells him to just look at Sue and imagine what would have happened if the burn had been replaced by the actual blow. Nursarin watches him for a second, then lets out a laugh. He admits that our boy clearly has more nerve than he expected. In the end, he agrees to let Barrick come along with them to the desert. The MC thanks him, but Sue does not take it well. She is absolutely fuming and demands some medicine to get rid of the burn marks and, right in front of everyone, declares war on Barrick once they are in the desert. The very next day, the Count meets privately with Nursarin and tells him that he is ready to agree to the requests made earlier and adds that the peace ceremony will be held in a week. There won't be any major arrangements though, since time is short. Nursarin respectfully thanks the Count on behalf of the Heavenly Warriors. The Count tells him to pass along his support to their clan chief, and with God's blessing, their agreement is settled. 1 week goes by and the long-awaited day of the ceremony finally arrives. Just before our boy leaves, Hannah hugs him tightly. She tells him to come back safe and sound, as her brother is already looking forward to making something special for his birthday, so he has to return no matter what. He tells her to leave the Count's estate after he is gone. He knows it won't be easy for her, but he believes it will be better for her in the long run. Before they part, he also thanks her sincerely for everything she has done for him until then. After that, he gets ready to leave the estate. He is done with this place for good. There is nothing holding him back now, and he is finally ready to head to the Heavenly Warriors clan. Later on, he and the Count arrive to meet Kakantir, the head of the clan. Kakantir greets them properly. The Count introduces himself and moves straight to the formal agreement. After discussing it, he takes out a homogeneity potion, the same kind their Brack family uses to confirm bloodline. Our hero and the Count both drop their blood into it, following the usual procedure. Meanwhile, Nursarin leans in and whispers something to Kakantir. After listening, Kakantir tells the Count that their clan will need Vicehead Winchin to confirm our boy's lineage instead. The Count does not say much, but inwardly, he sees through them. To him, it's obvious that they trust the word of an old shaman over a tested potion. He sees them as primitive but does not argue. He simply tells Kakantir to do whatever he thinks is right. Kakantir then cuts his own hand and drops blood, marking the agreement as official from their side. After that, the Count spends a few final moments with our boy. He reminds him to always remember the reason he is still alive. Then, without saying much else, the Count leaves. Soon after, the MC and the group begin their journey. The heat is intense, and Barrick keeps sipping water as they make their way through the desert. While they travel, our hero keeps in touch with Nursarin, giving updates based on the path his tutor had laid out for him earlier. Eventually, they reach the castle. As soon as they arrive, the people there rush out to greet them. Everyone scrambles to bring water and prepare food for the guests. A man spots our boy and recognizes him right away, saying that the blonde guy is clearly him. As the redhead, Barrack, looks like he might be trouble. Cockatier checks on Winchen's condition and hears that she is doing a bit better. He then leads our boy personally to meet her. Inside, Cockatier begins explaining the situation to Winchen. The two speak in a language that the MC does not understand. Seeing this, Cockatier takes a moment to explain to him that Winchen is not feeling well, and she uses the Heavenly Warrior dialect, which is different from the common tongue. So he takes it on himself to translate for our hero. He tells him that Winchen wants to see for herself whether our boy is worthy, and asks him to come closer. As the MC steps forward, Winchen suddenly grabs his hand and looks straight at him. She asks whether our hero is there by the will of God. Our boy tells Winchen who he is, and after hearing that, Winchen asks whether he carries the blood of Durga Brach and if his presence stands for peace. The MC agrees to both. There is a short pause, and then Winchen slowly lets go of his hand. She then turns to Cockatier and says something to him. Once their exchange ends, Cockatier takes our hero and leaves. As soon as they step outside, Cockatier gives instructions to his men to prepare rooms for both the MC and Barrack. Then, turning back to our hero, he informs him about a welcome back celebration planned for later that night. After Cockatier heads off, Barrack hurries over to our boy, curious and eager to know what was said. The MC tells him about the celebration dinner, and Barrack immediately lights up. Night eventually arrives, and the celebration dinner begins in full swing. Cockatier asks our hero and Barrack whether they had a comfortable rest. Both of them thank him politely, and Cockatier offers them a place beside him. While speaking, Cockatier compliments our boy for the detailed map of the desert he had prepared. He then adds that anything the MC offers is as good as Brock himself giving it directly to the Heavenly Warriors, and asks if they can use the map for their own needs. Our boy agrees, and Cockatier compliments the fact that the Count did well in raising at least one of his sons properly. The MC's eyes then wander to Cockatier's ear, where he notices an earring shaped like a leaf. He starts to wonder if it's a gurut leaf. From what he has heard, gurut is a powerful stimulant mainly used by the Heavenly Warriors, and is said to be even more effective when taken by regular soldiers. The Count, being the kind of person he is, had apparently pulled a few tricks to get his hands on it. Our hero recalls the time when the Count handed him a coin pouch along with a letter from his mother. That letter mentioned the very same leaf. According to what was written, she had heard that the Heavenly Warriors smoke gurut leaves instead of cigars, and wanted him to secretly bring some for her. Back then, he had found the letter strange right away. It was too perfectly written for someone who could not even read, and it did not match the tone or language of a commoner. It soon became clear to him that the Count had used her as a convenient excuse, and if something went wrong, the blame could easily be pinned on her. Cockatier suddenly pulls him back from his thoughts with a sharp warning. He tells him clearly that if he wants to stay safe in the desert, he must not show even the slightest interest in the gurut leaf. It's strictly reserved for soldiers who are heading into battle, and no questions or curiosity about it will be tolerated. Our boy nods and replies that he understands. Deep down, however, he realizes that Cockatier is sharp and observant. A thought crosses his mind that if the contraband gurut leaves could be used the right way, they could even be the key to breaking the treaty between the Count and the Heavenly Warriors. While he is thinking, he notices a man staring at him. He turns to Sue and asks who the man is. She tells him that the man's name is Boomart, a relative of Nurserin and also the cousin of his second stepmother. In addition, Boomart is in charge of food supplies. The MC finds the way Boomart keeps watching him a bit too intense and starts feeling uneasy. Just then, a man suddenly rushes into the hall and whispers something into Cockatier's ear. Without wasting a second, Cockatier gets up and quickly leaves. Sue tells our hero that Winchen has had another seizure and the person who came in is actually a physician. She also adds that everyone is beginning to believe Winchen's time is running out. Our boy asks if there is truly no treatment available. She replies that there is possibly one way, but she does not know if it's actually possible. The treatment involves a rare flower called silask, which is said to bloom forever, though its existence is uncertain. Hearing the name, the MC suddenly remembers a flower pot his mother once gave him, the same one the boy Ian used to care for as a child. The next morning, the desert camp is in complete uproar. News has spread fast that Winchen has been unconscious the entire night. Tension fills the air as people begin urging Cockatier to take action and send more teams to search for the silask flower. But not everyone agrees. Some are reluctant, as they point out that the ones who were sent earlier have not come back yet, and a few suggest that they wait a little longer and see what happens. At that moment, Nursarin brings our hero inside and informs Cockatier that he might have an idea about the silask. Cockatier, however, tells our boy to return because it's not his place to step in. The MC asks if the flower they are looking for happens to be red. Cockatier looks at him with curiosity and asks if he has seen it before. Our hero replies that he is not completely sure, but he has seen a flower that looks very similar back in the Brock territory. But before saying anything further, he makes a request. He explains that Brock is part of the Great Bariel, and the Imperial Palace is already aware of Brock's alliance with them. His presence here, he adds, is in line with the will of the royal family, so he asks to be treated with guaranteed safety and respect, not just as someone from Brock, but as a guest of the Burial Empire. Cockentier can clearly tell that our hero is trying to trade his own life in exchange for Winchen's, and he does not like the idea one bit. In a tone that sounds more like a threat than a question, he asks our boy whether he really believes the Empire would even bother sending an army for someone like him if he were to die there. The MC replies that he honestly does not know whether the army would show up or not, but what he does know for certain is that his death would not go unnoticed. He explains that the soul of the Imperial Palace, passed down over generations, now resides within him, and although he was born from Durga Brock's flesh, his soul belongs to the palace. Cockentier finds the claim amusing. He lets out a dry laugh and mentions that it's exactly because of people like our hero that their god has brought Winchen into their lives. He then takes our boy and leads him straight to Winchen's room. Once inside, he tells Winchen about our boy's claim of having information regarding the Silask, and asks whether it's true that the soul of the Imperial Palace is really inside him. Winchen activates the Eye of Truth to check for herself. As soon as she looks at him, her breathing becomes labored and rough, and after a few seconds, she collapses on the spot. The MC turns to Cockentier and tells him that the Silask is in his room. Cockentier quickly gives the order to search our hero's room and look for a red flower. Barrick, watching all of this unfold, starts getting nervous. Seeing everyone worked up like this makes him uneasy, so he asks our boy if they should quietly slip away. But the MC firmly shakes his head as he plans to give the flower to them as his first gift as a guest of the Burial Empire. After the flower pot is found, Cockentier and Nurserin meet with our hero again. This time, Cockentier speaks as the head of his clan and expresses genuine gratitude toward him. But our boy knows that one pot won't be enough. According to what he has heard, they will need several more roots if they want to turn it into actual medicine. Still, Cockentier insists that he has already helped them greatly and asks if he can possibly get more Silask. The MC admits that he cannot make any promises. While the flower pot does belong to him, he has been growing it for such a long time that he no longer remembers exactly when or how he even started. However, he mentions that there is someone who might know more, but he can only contact them a month after the full moon. Cockentier does not quite understand why he would need to wait that long. After all, if someone hurries, they can make it to Brack in just 3 or 4 days. But our boy is not trying to make excuses. He just wants something in return before he shares anything more. He asks for a promise. When the time comes to negotiate with Brock, he wants Cockentier to prioritize him over the Count. It's not hard for Cockentier to figure out what the MC is doing. It's clear he wants to separate himself from his father. Our hero reminds him that the Heavenly Warriors clan also believes in strength, and the strong become the head. That is the principle they have always followed. Cockentier apologizes, but claims giving the right to negotiate to the MC won't be simple, as he does not lead Brack's soldiers, and he does not have control over the grain supplies they receive from there either. That is when our boy decides to lay out what he has been holding back. He tells Cockentier that the Imperial Palace is going to send an inquisition to Brock very soon. The charge will be treason due to tax evasion. He adds that, if things go as planned, the name Brock might completely disappear within a month. He swears by the heavens that what he is saying is true. Cockentier immediately asks how he could possibly know such a thing. The MC explains that he heard it directly from people in the central government. They had come to evaluate him before the peace ceremony, and to decide whether he was fit to represent the Empire in the treaty. Cockentier warns him that if Brock falls, then he too, by sharing that name, will be at risk. But our hero clarifies that while he may be the Count's son by blood, he is not legally part of the family, as he has not been added to the official family registry yet. His name is not Ian Brock, it's just Ian, and legally, the Empire has no way to accuse him of treason, and that leaves the path open for him to become the next Lord of Brock. Upon hearing that, Cockentier is visibly unhappy. He feels misled by Brock for sending someone who has not even been formally recognized as part of the family. Our boy does not deny anything but claims that he is, without a doubt, Durga's son. And as the leader of the Heavenly Warriors clan, he hopes that Cockentier will make the right choice. Cockentier asks if he has anything else he wants to say. Our hero knows Cockentier does not trust him fully, so he decides to tell him everything. He suggests that Cockentier invade Brock with him after the Count dies, and the land is left without a proper leader. He promises that the Emperor and his army won't interfere. In fact, they will likely try to avoid any confrontation with the Heavenly Warriors. And even if conflict does happen, he assures him that the clan can retreat back to the desert without getting dragged into a long war. What he wants is the Heavenly Warriors clan to stand behind him. Since they have been allied with Brock for a long time, He wants them to declare their support for him, as that would make things much smoother for him. Cockatier knows that this approach won't really cost them anything. Still, he wants to know what benefit they will gain from helping a son who has not even been fully accepted by his own family. Our hero promises that once he becomes Lord, he will turn Brock into the most prosperous territory in the entire Burial Empire. And for the Heavenly Warriors clan that stood by him, he will give them a powerful and loyal alliance built on real trust and strength, one they never really had. He believes it's time to move past old divisions. To him, this alliance won't just be about trade deals or treaties written on paper, but it will be about two leaders who stand together and look out for each other and set the foundation for a new era of peace. Nursaran, however, brings up one issue. The Count had already asked for their help against the Imperial Palace, and the problem is they signed the treaty with him, not our boy. But the MC has already thought that through as well. He has a valid justification ready that will allow the Heavenly Warriors to break the treaty without backlash. Our boy explains that the Count had secretly told him to bring back Garut leaves when he returns to the estate on his birthday next year. It might seem like a small request on the surface, but considering Garut leaves are banned in the country, and that our hero was sent as a symbol of peace, asking him to smuggle something illegal is more than enough of a reason for the Heavenly Warriors to cut ties with the Count. Cockatier lets out a laugh and agrees that what the MC said is more than enough, but he admits that for him, simply ending the alliance does not feel satisfying. He wants something more meaningful. He then asks our boy if he has any solid proof to back up his claim. Our hero apologizes and admits there is no physical evidence at the moment, but he suggests that Cockatier double-check the truth through Winshin. Cockatier is not ready to take the MC at his word just yet. He asks him to swear to God that everything he said is true. Our boy agrees without question, and that seems to ease Cockatier's mood. Deep down, he admits that he used to think all the Brocks were fools, but after talking to our hero, he finds him to be a rare exception. Once it's clear that the MC is not asking for anything huge, just a simple statement of support, Cockatier asks what is pushing him to go this far. Our boy explains that if he ends up in the capital, more specifically the palace, then the only thing backing him would be the Brock territory, the one he will personally work hard to expand since arriving in these distant regions. Cockatier is upfront about his stance, as he has no intention of starting a war or spilling blood for him. Our hero assures him that he does not want that either. It's not because he is afraid of dying, but because he has already experienced death once before. Cockatier likes his resolve. There is a respect that settles between them as they shake hands, sealing the agreement. As the MC turns to leave, Cockatier suddenly stops him and asks if his decision to go to the capital has anything to do with the Emperor's current state of mind. Our boy does not say a word. He simply gives a quiet smile and walks away. Outside, the others who had been waiting are stunned to see him return unharmed. He turns to Sue and asks if she has time to help him out, and by help, he means he wants her to train Barrick. Sue does not hide her excitement, as this is the moment she has been waiting for. Under the cover of training, she absolutely lets loose on Barrick. She beats him up, yells at him, and hurls insults. Barrick is not the one to stay silent either. He fights back with just as much energy. Our hero watches the so-called training, which is honestly more like a never-ending argument. He checks on Barrick, asking how he is doing, but Barrick is not in the mood to talk. He is angry and blames the MC for his current state. Our boy, meanwhile, slips into his thoughts. Originally, he had planned to slowly work his way into the Heavenly Warriors clan's good graces, but thanks to the Silask, things somehow resolved themselves much faster than he expected. It's been a long time since he has been able to rest like this, but even with the break, thinking about everything that has happened lately does not leave him feeling all that great. A bit earlier, he meets Winshin, who had asked to see him. He is relieved to see that she looks far healthier than before, and seems to be recovering well. She called him to continue the conversation they had started earlier. He swears to the heavens that everything he told Cockatier is the truth. He does admit there are a few things he chose not to mention, but assures them that those things have nothing to do with the Heavenly Warriors clan. Winshin then shares what sounds like a divine message, according to which the god has said that everything about our boy must be changed, even if it means changing his entire existence. Our hero realizes that this must be a divine message delivered through a shaman, since he knows that, unlike the Empire, the Heavenly Warriors don't rely on temples for oracles. At this point, he has come to accept that unexpected things always tend to happen whenever he is in the desert. While he is still processing everything, a woman approaches and offers him something to taste. He thanks her, but she quickly waves it off that they are the ones who should be thankful. Because of him, Winshin was able to regain consciousness and recover, and everyone there is truly grateful for that. She also mentions that they are planning a banquet in his honor, since many see him as their savior. Before walking off, she tells him that once he has had enough rest, both Winshin and Cockatier want to meet him again to go over some adjustments regarding the negotiation rights. He decides to meet them soon, as Barrick's training session is almost over anyway. As she turns to leave, she suddenly remembers something and hands him a necklace she found in the pot while replanting the silask. Our boy takes the necklace into his hands. He does not recognize it, and it is clearly his first time coming across a gem like this. What confuses him more is how on earth a child could possess something so unusual, especially when it's connected to another strange thing. The child managed to grow a silisk. That alone already raised suspicion, and he starts to consider the possibility that the boy truly did not know anything about the necklace. If he had known, our hero thinks, he likely would have sold it long ago to make ends meet. And the fact that it was buried inside a pot makes things even more suspicious. That likely means the person who had been taking care of the plant was the one who deliberately hid the necklace there. The MC wonders if maybe someone had asked them to protect the silisk carefully, possibly as a favor or under specific instructions. But honestly, it's all just speculation at this point. He does not have much to go on. His sources are limited, and he does not have enough information to figure it out. The more he thinks about it, the more questions he has. So for the time being, he hopes that this strange situation won't interfere with the path he is trying to follow, or mess up the plans he has worked so hard to build. Right then, Barrick shows up, interrupting his thoughts. Our boy stands up and sees that Barrick is roughed up after getting manhandled by Sue. Though Barrick insists that it was not a loss, and claims it was actually a close match, our hero just nods in agreement, letting the topic slide without pushing further. He makes a mental note to ask Barrick about the great desert warriors later. After all, Barrick always says he wants to be the strongest in the world, even though he is still pretty far from that goal. But for the present, the MC is satisfied because everything is falling into place just the way he hoped, and he decides to keep his focus on what lies ahead. Meanwhile, over at the Brack estate, the aide suddenly barges into the Count's office, looking flustered and breathless. The Count scolds him for being loud and reminds him that he must take it easy when he is busy working through his paperwork. The aide quickly apologizes but insists that the Count needs to come outside immediately, as the royal investigators have arrived and are waiting. Led by their captain, Buddy Erica, the royal investigation team stands inside the Brack estate. The Count wastes no time and rushes down to meet them. Erica introduces herself formally and presents an official notice. She explains that she has been sent by the palace to investigate a case of treason through tax evasion. She assures him that she intends to carry out the investigation thoroughly and without bias. Upon hearing that, the Count's temper flares. He outright rejects the accusations and claims they are ridiculous. He even adds that he has been the one protecting the Brack countryside from outside threats, barbarians in particular, for the sake of the Burial Empire. But then, Erica calmly hands him a document, stamped clearly with the Brack family's official seal. It contains a formal report of tax evasion and a direct request for the Emperor to investigate the matter fully. Seeing the seal leaves the Count stunned. He does not know what to say. Meanwhile, Erica announces that the estate will be taken over by her team while the investigation is carried out. She orders that everyone currently working under the Count must follow her orders moving forward. She then instructs the investigators to begin with the top floor and points them straight to the main office. As the investigators begin rounding up servants for questioning and checking rooms, the Count cannot shake the troubling thought that they somehow know the exact location of the main office, despite it being their first time there. He is sure that someone must have informed them beforehand, and it could not have been a lucky guess. His suspicion quickly turns to Moline. But then, Moline getting his hands on the family seal in the first place does not make any sense. That could only mean there is a traitor inside the estate. And since the aide is still unconscious and has not regained awareness yet, the Count's thoughts circle back to a familiar name. Our hero. Back in the desert, a messenger knight from the Brack estate arrives, bringing news to the warriors. He delivers a report of what is happening and asks for their help. Kakantir listens in silence. He understands that a physical conflict might break out soon. But what he wants more than anything is clear proof that the treason charges on the Count are false. He has no intention of making the royal family his enemy, unless he is absolutely certain the Count is innocent. But the messenger remains firm. He insists that the Count will prove his innocence without a doubt, and he is even willing to offer up the life of his beloved son, our boy, to do it. Kakantir laughs, surprising the knight. He then quickly apologizes and promises they will catch up with the rest of the group shortly. Before leaving, the knight brings up the topic of what they should do about the MC. Kakantir responds without much concern. He tells the knight they are free to handle that however they see fit. He personally does not want the blood of a warrior who once lived among them on their hands, so whatever happens, he does not want it to be under his command. The knight then shares that the Count has already given orders, and if this situation arises, he is prepared to act. Kakantir nods and sends word to bring our boy in. When he arrives, Kakantir introduces the knight to him as someone sent to take his life. Our hero, unsurprisingly, does not look shocked because he expected this. The knight, however, is confused. It does not make sense to him why Kakantir would speak of the MC so respectfully, especially if he is supposed to be a target. But Kakantir does not bother explaining. He ignores the knight's confusion and moves on as if nothing is strange. The knight starts sensing that something is not right. Our boy is far too calm for someone who just learnt he is about to be killed. And Cockatier acts like he knew all of this was coming. On top of that, he keeps calling our hero with respect, and the knight cannot understand why. He starts wondering if there is some kind of alliance forming between them, but he shakes the thought away and decides to focus on the mission to complete. He draws his sword, preparing to strike, but just as he does, Beric jumps in time and blocks the blow. Our hero stands quietly behind him, unfazed, waiting calmly, ready to let the knight go through Beric first if he truly intends to kill him. There is only so much a person can gain from training alone, especially when there is no real threat or danger involved. True growth only happens when they are up against someone skilled and they are forced to fight with their life on the line. The MC and Cockatier sit nearby, their eyes fixed on the intense match about to start between Beric and the Count's messenger knight. Around them, the desert folk clearly lean toward the knight. Compared to Beric, they seem to find the knight more reliable and capable, and many of them are hoping he gives Beric a serious beating. The knight, meanwhile, does not like being treated like some kind of street performer or a gladiator put on display for the amusement of what he considers a bunch of uncultured barbarians. Before the fight begins, Beric tells the knight not to go too hard on him, but he himself plans to give it everything he has got. Once the fight kicks off, Beric rushes and starts attacking. The knight accuses him of being reckless and charging in like a rabid dog with no sense. But Beric does not take offense. In fact, he grins and takes it as a compliment, pushing forward without any hesitation. Then the knight slams the hilt of his sword into Beric's stomach with a brutal kick. Beric staggers, coughs up blood, and drops to the ground, clearly injured. Seeing a chance to end the fight, the knight moves in for the finishing blow. But Beric, not ready to give up, quickly grabs a handful of dirt from the ground and throws it into the knight's eyes. While the knight flinches, Beric uses the opening to land a solid punch to his face. Now the knight finds Beric even more annoying. What should have been a straightforward match is turning into a frustrating mess. He knows time is short, and yet this stubborn opponent just won't quit. Still, he decides to wrap it up quickly. Both fighters lunge at each other with the clear intent to end it once and for all. This time, the knight lands a critical hit with his sword, pierces Beric, and keeps pushing deeper, making the crowd think he is toying with Beric or dragging it out on purpose. Beric eventually blacks out and falls. His body hits the ground hard, and for a moment it seems like he is done for. The knight then turns his attention to our hero, with the intent of finishing him too. He believes that killing him will help prove the Count's innocence. But before he can act, something unexpected happens. Just as everyone assumes the fight is over, Beric, against all odds, springs up from behind. The knight senses something coming at the last second and manages to dodge. Beric's attack slams into the ground, showing just how much force he still has in him. Bloodied and breathing heavily, Beric yanks the sword from his own wound and declares that he is not finished yet. Now furious, the knight gets ready to strike again. But Beric, someone who has always lived with death hanging over his shoulder, does not step back. He charges in, knowing full well what is at stake. In battle, there is always a moment, a spark, that pushes someone beyond their limits. And Beric knows that to rise beyond that point, one has to throw everything they are into it, even if it costs their life. He keeps pressing forward, refusing to stop. Eventually, he overpowers the knight and kills him. Right after sealing his victory, Beric collapses as he is completely worn out. But the fight is done, and he has won. The people watching erupt into praise and cheer for what he accomplished. They quickly start looking for a doctor to tend to him. Cockatier can also see clearly why our boy brought Beric along with him. He understands that Beric has the heart of a true warrior. Rough around the edges, but he has got the determination and spirit needed to fight through anything. The MC, watching it all quietly, knows the same thing. There is no one else quite like Beric. Not in personality, not in grit, and certainly not in stubbornness, as he is one of a kind. At the Brock estate, the air is filled with tension. Everyone in the household is on edge, unsure of what is coming next. Amid this tense atmosphere, Sue suddenly makes an appearance through the window. The Count recognizes her immediately and demands information about his knight. Without a word, Sue hands him a gift, something from Cockatier, a reply of sorts. She then turns around to leave without waiting for further questions. But the Count is not done. He tries to stop her, asking urgently what Cockatier's response was and whether they succeeded in killing our hero. Still, Sue remains silent. She gives him no answer and leaves without looking back. Feeling uneasy, the Count opens the documents she left behind. The contents quickly make things clear. Cockatier and the Heavenly Warriors have looked into the matter and uncovered that the Brock family sent an illegitimate, unregistered child as a sign of goodwill completely against their promise. Not only that, but they tried to smuggle illegal Gurut leaves into the region through that same child. Based on this, the Heavenly Warriors officially declare their alliance with the Brax Void. Just when the Count thinks things cannot get worse, the gift box Sue brought reveals its true horror. The severed head of the knight tumbles out in front of him. The entire room freezes. The Count stares at it in shock, and fury rises inside him. He vows to get revenge on the warriors who dared to betray him in such a brutal way. His shouting is so loud that even the investigator knights stationed outside get startled. Realizing that things have reached a breaking point, the Count makes a decision. Since he is already being accused of treason, he figures there is no point in backing down. He decides to give it everything he has, starting from driving out the investigation team, resisting the capital's incoming army, and claiming independence from the Burial Empire altogether. He turns to his wife and instructs her to escape through the window along with Chell. He tells them to head to the secret storage room and not to come out until he personally comes for them. The Countess is visibly shaken and pleads with him to come along with them. Even Chell tries to convince him to escape. But the Count insists. Time is critical, and he has no choice but to take care of the investigators before the capital's forces arrive. As his family escapes through the window, the Count sets the room on fire. Elsewhere in the estate, Erica receives word about the Count's actions. She is told that he is on the run and has started a fire inside the mansion. She mutters that the Count is only speeding up his downfall. She then orders Philip to report the current situation to the capital's reinforcements immediately. At the same time, she commands the rest of her team to follow her lead. The instructions are to search every corner of the estate and make sure the Count does not leave the territory. And if there is no other way, they are to kill him on the spot. What frustrates Erica even more is that she had plans to take over the Count's estate once everything was over, and watching it burn irritates her deeply. The flames begin consuming everything, and those still trapped inside cry out for help. Philip waits beside her, looking for direction. She tells him to begin putting out the fire, but reminds him that their main focus must remain on capturing the Count. Some of the team are ordered to stay back and deal with the fire, while the rest are told to search outside the mansion for any sign of the Count. Meanwhile, the Count rides swiftly on horseback. Just before the mansion was fully taken over, he sent out 3 letters through his butler. One was addressed to the Heavenly Warriors, another to the first Prince Marev, and a third letter to an unknown person. The Count then brings his horse to a stop and begins shouting for Theo. When Theo appears, he explains the situation. The Heavenly Warriors have turned on them, and they need to buy some time until they hear back from the prince. The Count's current plan is to take the mansion back before the capital's army arrives. Since the capital is still a long way off, he believes they have a small window of opportunity. And with the investigation team being the only ones standing in their way, he thinks they can win if they make use of the terrain around them. The Count firmly believes that the Brock soldiers are the best. He trusts them completely, certain that they are among the top elite forces trained specifically for fighting warriors like those in Cockentier's clan. His men rally around him without hesitation, ready to follow his command. Meanwhile, Theo, while listening obediently, is secretly plotting. He hopes that once the battle is over, he can take over command of the army for himself. As the soldiers prepare to march under the Count's lead, Sue keeps an eye on the situation from the nearby trees. Back in the desert, our boy remains at Barrick's side. Barrick is still unconscious, and the doctor steps out to fetch more medicine. Outside, Cockentier, who was waiting for her, asks about Barrick's condition. She informs him that the injuries are severe enough to kill an ordinary person, but Barrick is managing to hold on. She estimates that it will take 3 to 4 months for him to recover. Cockentier feels bad for the MC, who has no other fighter left by his side. Inside the room, our hero hears the conversation clearly. Instead of getting worried, he smirks quietly to himself. Cockentier is wrong about him being helpless. He reaches out and begins using his magic on Barrick. He gives his best effort to help Barrick using his magic, but despite his determination, the condition Barrick is in makes it too risky to use any more magic. He is already feeling lightheaded and knows he cannot push himself further. Just then, the doctor enters the room with Cockentier following behind. She immediately notices his pale face and moves to check on him. But first, she walks over to Barrick's bedside. He is lying there, still and quiet, as if in a deep sleep. She observes him for a moment before turning to our hero with a puzzled look. It's strange to see someone in his condition recovering like this. But at least she now understands why everyone who saw Barrick fight spoke about how stubborn and persistent he was. There is definitely something unusual about him. Cockentier, standing nearby, burns the gurut leaves. He mutters that he regrets not bringing more along with him, as he had not expected Barrick to be injured this badly. Still, he hands one of the leaves to the MC, and tells him how the Heavenly Warriors use these leaves to avoid death, though he is unsure whether it will have the same effect on someone from outside the clan. After all, this is the first time they have allowed an outsider to use it. Our boy quietly accepts the leaf, eats it, and thanks Cockentier sincerely. He is surprised by how willing Cockentier has been to share something so important with him. It's not just about the leaf, it's about trust, and that realization touches him more than he expected. Cockentier then updates him on the latest news he has received from Sue and tells him that his hunch was correct. The Count has been backed into a corner and is now busy gathering his forces, and there is no sign of the Central Army yet. Our hero knows that they will need more information soon. Without knowing the number of troops the capital has or how many investigators are still active, they won't be able to come up with a solid strategy. Kakantir advises him to get some rest, as he reassures him they still have a few days to prepare. Before the MC knows it, sleep begins to overtake him, and the doctor quietly makes sure he is comfortable, pulling the blanket over both him and Barrick. Around dawn, our boy wakes up. The room is dark, and everything seems quiet. Barrick is still asleep beside him, not showing any signs of waking up. But our hero cannot shake the feeling that something is off. Despite how kind the heavenly warriors have been, he is surprised that they have even gone so far as to offer him their sacred Gurut leaf. Then he suddenly senses a dangerous presence. A chilling, murderous intent seems to be seeping into the room. He reaches for the dagger placed on the side table. Before he can prepare himself, the door bursts open, and a masked man charges inside. Our boy is caught off guard by this sudden intruder, and his dagger flies out of his hand during the struggle. The masked man, on the other hand, wastes no time and grabs our hero by the throat, choking him with unrestrained fury. Not only that, he spits venomous words and accuses the MC of stepping out of line and scheming behind everyone's back. He blames him for ruining everything, even calling him useless like his father, the Count. As he prepares to make a final blow, our boy gathers the last of his strength to channel his magic, and a sudden explosion erupts in the room. Outside, the warriors on patrol hear the blast and rush over. Kakantir also receives word immediately. He hurries to the scene, finding our boy shaken but alive. Kakantir questions him about what happened, but our hero does not have any answers. He truly has no idea who the attacker was or how the explosion even came to be. Kakantir quickly orders his men to secure the area and identify the one responsible for attacking their guest. At the same time, he cannot help but wonder how our hero managed to fend off the attacker and what exactly triggered the explosion. One of the warriors checks the attacker and tells Kakantir that he should see the intruder himself. When Kakantir looks, he is stunned. The attacker is revealed to be Bumart. Kakantir orders that Bumart be taken to the prison and declares that he will personally interrogate him first thing in the morning. The next morning arrives, and Bumart is jolted awake by a splash of cold water to the face. He opens his eyes to find Kakantir, the MC, and others in front of him. Kakantir gets straight to the point and asks him if he really attacked our boy. Bumart does not deny it. Instead, he asks Kakantir to cut off his arm and stop questioning him if he still considers him a part of the family. He also warns Kakantir to stay cautious of our hero and claims that the MC possesses strange powers. He goes on to describe how our boy's eyes turned golden, and right after that, a mysterious explosion took place. To him, it's all proof that he is a suspicious person. Kakantir listens silently, but our boy knows what is going on. He realizes that Bumart is dodging the real question and trying to shift the attention onto him. He begins to suspect that Bumart is playing for time, trying to survive this and plan something later. With that thought, he politely asks Kakantir for permission to speak. Once granted, he shares what happened during the attack. He explains that Bumart mentioned the Count's name and called his proposal to Kakantir a scheme. From his tone and actions, it seemed like Bumart was desperate to stop the alliance. This makes him wonder whether Bumart has made some secret deal with the Count. Just then, something else comes to mind. He recalls the letter that was tucked away in the secret drawer of the Count's office. It was about the successor of the female head of the clan. He then turns to Bumart and asks whether he was the sender. Before the MC can say anything more, Bumart suddenly clamps his jaws down on his own tongue. The warriors standing nearby act quickly, rushing to stop him before it's too late. They shove handkerchiefs into his mouth to control the bleeding and keep him from going further. Our boy, on the other hand, brings up that he heard directly from Sue about Bumart being in charge of all of the food. He connects the dots and explains that he believes the food was the main reason behind Winshin's deteriorating health. From what he could see, Bumart likely had plans to become the next chief by getting rid of Winshin. In return, the Count was supposed to receive some sort of financial reward. It was a dirty exchange, and all signs are pointing toward it being true. Kakantir then steps forward and grabs Bumart by the hair. He commands the warriors that no one, absolutely no one, is to go near Winshin's room until he personally allows it. Then, dragging Bumart with him, Kakantir walks into a room and closes the door behind him. A few moments later, strange muffled noises echo from inside. After a stretch of silence, Kakantir comes out holding Bumart's lifeless body. He coldly instructs them to dispose of the body and bring all of Bumart's family members to him immediately. Turning to our hero next, Kakantir questions him about the mysterious explosion. The MC admits that it was his doing. Kakantir already suspects as much. People capable of calling forth unexplained forces like that are known as mages in the Empire. Our boy does not try to hide anything. He tells Kakantir that he is not ready to explain everything about himself just yet, but he gives his word that one day he will. At the moment, he believes it would be too difficult for Kakantir to understand due to the differences between their worlds, the environment, the beliefs, and the long years he has lived through. Kakantir listens, silent in thought. After a while, he makes a decision. Initially, his intention had been to help our hero return safely to Brack and support him until he had a firm position of power. But given the situation at the moment, with the truth about the Count's betrayal using their alliance as a cover to try and eliminate Winchin, Kakantir feels no hesitation. To him, it's now a matter of honor. He declares that the Heavenly Warriors clan will take the responsibility of bringing the Count to justice and taking his head. The MC completely understands Kakantir's stance. Still, he reminds him that the Imperial investigation team is already labeling the Count's crimes as treason, and in such a case, they won't allow anyone else to take over the punishment. But if our boy can somehow secure the Brack territory under his own control, he promises to help Kakantir accomplish his goal. With that promise, he respectfully requests Kakantir's support. Kakantir agrees, and the two solidify their deal. Later on, our hero goes to check on Barrick, who has finally regained consciousness. Barrick, looking completely drained, is in the middle of throwing up. It's clear that even though he is awake, he is far from well. But despite his miserable state, our boy cannot help but feel a sense of relief wash over him to see him open his eyes. Barrick, who is feeling nauseous, asks the doctor if she mixed alcohol in his medicine. The doctor gets offended and scolds him to stay quiet and lie down. She insists that it's a miracle he is even alive, let alone able to speak. The MC helps him lie back, and while he is doing so, he silently agrees with her that it really is strange. He knows that swordsmen who can use mana are different, stronger than the average person, but even then, Barrick's fast recovery is surprising. He asks Barrick whether he remembers the faces of his parents. Barrick replies that he does, without hesitation. This makes our boy think that Barrick is not mixed with any other races, like non-humans. Still, something about Barrick's condition and resilience feels different. He files the thought away for later. Barrick then suddenly asks if they will be returning to Brack soon. Our hero answers that maybe the next day, and Barrick lights up, excited. But before he can get too carried away, the MC tells him that he won't be going with him. Barrick is shocked and tries to sit up but winces from the pain. He asks why, sounding hurt. Our boy explains that it's because of his injuries, as he is just not in a condition to fight. They will be facing the Count's soldiers, the investigation squad, and even the Central Army, and our hero wants Barrick to rest and focus on healing until the situation is under control. But Barrick is not having it. He starts complaining that the MC is abandoning him after everything. He rants about how he promised to teach him mana, and now he is being left behind like a used rag. He even mocks him for not being strong enough to wring out a wet cloth properly. Our boy rolls his eyes and reminds him that Barrick used mana on his own already. He did it back then, without any help. Just then, Nursarin steps into the room and asks our hero to come outside, as a letter has arrived from Brack. Outside, Kakantir updates him that the timing is good. The Count has surrounded the mansion with his soldiers, and the investigation team are holding their ground inside, likely waiting for reinforcements. The real issue is the civilians, as they have gathered at the regional bank in the center of the territory. The MC explains that the bank is considered sacred ground. It's the Hyman Bank, which oversees the Empire's financial system. Every region has one, and no one dares cause trouble near a bank. If any violence breaks out there, the banks will sever ties with anyone involved. That is why neither the Count nor the investigation team has made a move. Kakantir realizes it's like a neutral zone. Our boy agrees and urges that they need to act fast because if they don't, the people outside the bank might start siding with the Count. Hearing this, Kakantir makes up his mind that they will leave for Betrayal at first light the next day. Back at the Brack mansion, the Count's soldiers shoot a bunch of arrows toward the estate. Watching from afar, the Count turns to Theo and talks about Marilof City, which is right next to their land. He thinks it's strange that there has not been any sign of action or response from Marilof so far. Theo explains that they tried reaching out, but every messenger was turned away at the gates. Not just that, the city has completely locked itself in. The Count gets annoyed and mutters a few curses in frustration. Theo suggests that once the time is right, they should take over Marilof. It's mainly a merchant city after all, with a few soldiers and lacking any proper defense or manpower. But just as they are in the middle of that conversation, the sharp sound of a horn rings out across the area, and the Central Army can be seen on their way. The Count yells out orders to his soldiers and tells them to block the bridge. He wants to stop them from stepping foot onto the estate. Meanwhile, in Portlow City, things are spiraling out of control. Outside the Hyman Bank, a crowd of desperate civilians has gathered, yelling and banging at the gate, begging to be let in. They are in a panic because rumors have spread that the Central Army are killing people at the mansion, and fear is setting in fast. The people are so scared that they start fighting amongst themselves just to be the first to get through the doors. Inside a small home nearby, Hannah sits holding her little brother close. The boy, innocent and unaware of the growing tension, points out a hawk flying just outside their window. Not far from there, the Heavenly Warriors arrive in the city and immediately notice the terrible condition of the streets. Children crying, people fighting over scraps of food. It's worse than anything Kakantir imagined. The MC, however, had expected exactly this and is not surprised. As soon as the citizens spot the warriors, the panic only gets worse. Cries go up, calling them barbarians, and people scatter in fear. Mugarin, one of the warriors, is enraged by the insult, but Kakantir keeps him calm and tells him not to lose focus. He points out a small child ahead and warns the warriors not to let any harm come to the boy. Our hero steps down from his horse, notices the boy shivering, and reaches out to help him up off the cold ground. Just then, a man shows up who turns out to be the boy's father, Jason. He recognizes our hero immediately. It turns out Jason used to work at the back of the Count's mansion, taking care of the horses in the stables. The MC remembers him too, and he is relieved to see Jason still alive. They exchange a few quick words, updating each other on the current mess. As our boy walks away, another man approaches Jason, and Jason shares how our hero had promised that the Heavenly Warriors would help them. Eventually, the Heavenly Warriors arrive at the mansion. Barrack is with them too, though he is tied to a horse like luggage. Our boy had not planned to bring him along, but knowing Barrack, leaving him behind would have only caused more trouble. One of the knights guarding the gate gets tense when he sees the group arriving. The MC pulls back his hood, showing his face, and introduces himself as the Count's son. He also introduces the warriors, making it clear that they are not there for a fight. He simply wants to talk and asks the knight to inform his superior. Inside the mansion, Erica is already watching from the window. Her eyes meet our heroes for a brief moment. Soon after, the MC and Kakantir are taken to a reception room. Erica walks in not long after. She introduces herself and mentions that she has heard about our boy from Moline. Apparently she is working under his orders. Our hero asks her about what is going on outside. Erica replies that things are under control, though they have hit a small snag. They have already confirmed the tax evasion charges, but the Count's knights have been difficult, dragging things out longer than expected. Then, she shifts the focus and questions him. She is curious about why he is there. From what she has heard, he has had personal issues with the Count. She flatly asks if he came just to watch the execution. He responds calmly and mentions that to him, Brock is still his home. After hearing what is happening, he could not sleep at night. The Heavenly Warriors, who are allied with Brock, feel the same way, which is why they decided to follow him there. But Erica is not buying it. She calls his reasoning nonsense and reminds him that everyone in the capital knows the truth about how Brock and the Heavenly Warriors clan have never gotten along. The MC, she adds, is the proof. An illegitimate son, thrown away and sent to the desert like garbage. Our boy lets out a small laugh and apologizes if he sounded amused. He tells her that it makes sense that someone like her, a complete outsider, would not know how things really work inside Brock. Then, with a slight smirk, he compliments her speaking style and jokingly asks if all captains these days come from humble backgrounds. Erica bristles, clearly offended, and looks ready to snap, but before she can say a word, Kakantir steps in. He introduces himself properly as the Chief of the Great Desert. He tells her to watch her tone and wants her to get on with the execution if the Count's tax crimes are already confirmed, so that the warriors can help clean up what is left in Brock. Erica snaps at Kakantir immediately and reminds him loud and clear that he is currently standing within the territory of the Empire. From her point of view, his words sound like a clear insult aimed at the heir to the imperial throne. But Kakantir warns her to choose her words wisely. He adds that she should consider herself lucky as he is overlooking her rude attitude just this once. She then turns her attention to our boy and threatens to cut his throat along with his father's, and boldly claims that everyone knows he carries the blood of the Durga family, so no one would face punishment for killing him. Our hero, however, keeps his cool and tells her that he is well aware of his position. He admits that he carries the Count's blood, but also clarifies that he does not belong to the Brock family. He sees himself as a citizen of the Empire, someone unique who has also interacted with the Heavenly Warriors clan. That alone sets him apart. He then brings up Erica's duty. As the head of the Inquisition, her job is to investigate the Count's tax crimes and punish him according to the law. That is it. He makes it clear that her responsibilities don't include taking over the Count's territory or managing it once he is gone. So, when he asked her to back off once her task is complete, it was not overstepping. But rather than accepting this, his words seemed to irritate Erica even more. Kakantir, who had been watching the conversation quietly, throws a scroll on the table. It's an official document from the Heavenly Warriors, laying out their position. He explains that they have formed an alliance with Brock, and their main concern is restoring peace in the region. Erica scoffs and calls him shameless, but Kakantir stands firm. He reminds her that according to their treaty, they were supposed to help the Count. But since the Count has broken laws and committed crimes, they are no longer bound to assist him. That is why they are helping the investigation instead. And because the MC serves as the bridge between them and Brock, Kakantir suggests that Erica allow him to rule Brock for the time being. Erica finds that idea ridiculous. To her, the thought of giving such a responsibility to a bastard child is simply absurd. But deep down, she knows that our boy has no major flaws other than his background. the people of Brock are already frustrated and close to rising up. If someone like him, who shares their bloodline, steps forward, he might be able to calm them down. Plus, having the support of the warriors gives him strong backing for border security. Still, she refuses. She tells them that only the Emperor has the authority to assign lords. Our hero agrees but points out that until the Emperor makes a decision, no one else has official power over the region. That means the seat is temporarily open. Erica acknowledges his logic and can now see what they are aiming for. However, she adds that the Count and his family are still missing, and it's her duty to find every last resisting soldier and re-establish full Imperial control. That is when the MC makes his offer. He promises to capture the Count himself and also take responsibility for restoring order afterwards with the help of the warriors. According to him, the presence of the soldiers and Inquisition has already stirred public anger, and this approach might help ease the tension. Erica coldly warns him not to do anything reckless or side with the Count. He reassures her not to worry, as he plans to bring the Count there himself and prove just how serious and loyal he is. With that, Erica leaves the room, but her mind is racing. She decides to wait until the official Imperial decree arrives that names her as the next Lord of Brach. Once that happens, she plans to crush our boy and anyone who stands with him. She then orders her men to bring the carrier pigeons. Elsewhere, deep in the woods, the Count is being led by Theo. The Count is visibly annoyed, frustrated by how far they have come. He questions where they are going. Theo explains that their destination is the Hawan Kingdom since the gates of Mariloff have been sealed shut. Deep down, the Count plans to wait things out and return to Brach later when the heat dies down. But before they can go much further, a bird suddenly swoops down and attacks. It's clearly not a coincidence. Theo immediately recognizes it as an ambush and shouts for the knights to protect the Count. Within seconds, Kakantir and his warriors reveal themselves, stepping into view from the shadows of the forest. Kakantir greets the Count with a smug look as he enjoys the Count's pitiful condition. Theo commands the knights to form a defense around the Count. At that moment, Beric charges in and attacks Theo. Theo blocks the attack with his shield, but Beric taunts him and brings up the beatings Theo used to give him during training. Our hero also steps forward and greets the Count. The Count, furious at seeing him, can barely say anything before Beric lands another attack. This time, his blow breaks Theo's shield and kills him. Afterward, they escort the Count back to the estate, where Erica is waiting. The corpses of Theo and the others are laid in the front yard as well, and the MC turns to Erica and asks whether she finds him trustworthy now. Though clearly not happy to admit it, Erica concedes that maybe he is not completely useless. He then urges her to get on with the trial and finish her job. But Erica does not think her assignment is done yet. Her mission includes breaking down all remaining power within Brach, and she still has not found the Countess or Chel Brach. It's suspicious that there is no sign they have escaped the territory, as no women have passed through the city gates since the day they disappeared. She suggests that if our hero and the warriors are not busy, they should help with the search in the village. She even suggests them to stay there for a while. After giving her instructions, she leaves and tells Philip to inspect every single corpse. She is determined to be the first one to find the Countess and Chel, and once she does, she plans to hide them until the Imperial decree naming her lord arrives. Nursarin lets the MC know that Erica is waiting for the official letter confirming her new title. Our boy had a feeling that might be the case. He is pretty sure the decision was made behind closed doors the moment they put her in charge of the investigation team. Kakantir then joins the conversation and points out that if that is true, it's only a matter of time before Erica ends up taking full control of the territory. And once that happens, the Heavenly Warriors stand to lose a significant amount of influence and power. He looks at our hero and asks if he has a better alternative. The MC agrees with him, and he also knows the situation is serious, but he thinks they still have a chance if they can manage to buy themselves some time. He goes on to explain that it will take at least 15 days just to send out a messenger pigeon, and more importantly, the situation they are in now, as complicated as it looks, is actually somewhat in their favor. Kakantir is clearly not convinced. He cannot believe our boy is calling this favorable, especially considering that both the Countess and Chel are missing and the entire investigation team has now set up camp in the mansion. But our hero reminds him of something Erica had said herself not long ago. She made it clear that her mission would not be over until she located both the Countess and Chel. That tells the MC they are staying there because they believe those two are still hiding somewhere within the territory. And if they eventually realize that the two have already escaped, they will be forced to chase after them. That is where his plan comes in, as he wants to find the Countess and Chel and use them as leverage. Kakantir picks up on what he means. Since the only person they have managed to capture so far is the Count, Kakantir decides it's best to stay alert and keep watch for any movement. Our boy thanks him for his support and tells him that he has a few things to take care of. He is planning to meet up with Beric, who is currently running errands outside the estate. Before he leaves, he suggests Kakantir get some rest with the other warriors before joining him later. Although our hero suspects the Countess and Chel might still be inside the mansion, there is one major problem. Every servant who might have had any knowledge or clues about their whereabouts is dead. So at this point, he figures it's better to handle things himself rather than wait around. Outside, he meets Barrick, who has just finished his errands. Barrick tells him that he checked the forest and everything looked fine. He also adds that the MC's mother, Philia, seems to be doing well and jokes that living alone might suit her because she looked healthy and cheerful. Our boy scolds him and tells him to watch what he says. They are in the slums, where he wants to start looking for Hannah. He asks Barrick to take the lead. As they move through the area, Barrick stops here and there to ask people about Hannah. After a good amount of walking and asking around, they finally reach her home. Inside, Hannah is seen trying to comfort her younger sibling who is crying. The moment she spots our hero, she rushes over in tears, relieved and emotional to see him safe. She immediately starts bombarding him with questions. Whether he really came to see her, whether it's safe for him to be there, and if it's true that he is actually the Count's son. She admits she thought it was a lie when she heard he had arrived with the Heavenly Warriors. The MC reassures her, and then asks if there have been any strange rumors going around about anything, like ghost stories or whispers of a hidden passage in the mansion. Hannah has not heard anything like that. Our boy feels a bit frustrated. He thinks it would have made things a lot easier if the butler had still been alive. Seeing his reaction, Hannah looks surprised. So he explains that the butler probably crossed the border while running away, and his body had been recovered from Marilov's side and was returned to Brach. That news makes Hannah visibly nervous. Our hero picks up on it and asks her what is wrong. After a short pause, she admits she feels guilty about taking something that belonged to the butler. The MC and Barrick quickly understand it was not exactly borrowed, more like stolen. Our boy asks if she got into any kind of trouble since her sudden resignation might have looked suspicious. But Hannah insists it was not like that. She just borrowed it, and besides, many others had quit around that time too. She goes on to explain that the Countess had been extremely irritable lately, even lashing out at people physically. Our hero asks her to be specific. So Hannah shares that she was not directly working under the Countess, but she did notice that the woman seemed extremely stressed. Strange marks had even started to appear on her arms and legs. That's why Hannah thought it would be safest to leave quietly while others were also leaving. Then she shows them the box she took from the butler, and adds that when she opened it, she only found some old letters and drawings, which made her feel bad, like she had taken something filled with memories. She asks if they can burn it along with the butler's remains when the time comes. Barrick takes the box and opens it, despite the MC trying to stop him. Papers and drawings scatter everywhere, just as our boy had warned. Our hero quickly picks up one of the documents. It turns out to be a floor plan of the Brach mansion, but something about it looks off to him. To Hannah, the map looks normal. Barrick does not think there is anything weird either, except that the garden area is completely blank. The MC then explains that detailed plans like these usually skip landscaping because it changes all the time and takes forever to draw. But a tree drawn on the map seems suspicious to him. Meanwhile, in a hidden room somewhere inside the Brach estate, the Countess and Chell are still lying low. Chell complains about being hungry, and the Countess tells him to eat some jerky. But he is clearly fed up with hiding. The Countess tries to calm him down and tells him they will get a chance to escape soon. But deep down, she is not so sure. She knows that if they get caught, things won't end well, as they could be charged with treason. She keeps thinking about the front row family home, and how it might be their only hope. For the time being, she decides to hold out a little longer. Suddenly, they hear footsteps approaching, and the candle goes out. The Countess silently hopes it's the Count, but it's obviously none other than our boy standing there with a lantern in his hand. Sue is amazed to see an entire underground tunnel carved out on the Count's command. She has heard rumors that nobles in the Empire often prepare escape routes like this one. They are not the kind to fight when things get tough, so they prefer running. And after seeing it for herself, she realizes those rumors might have been true all along. But before she can think more about it, the Countess suddenly snaps. With her patience worn thin, she lunges forward and aims straight for our hero. Sue quickly steps in and restrains her, grabbing both her arms and twisting them behind her back. The Countess cries out and complains about pain, all while throwing some insults at the warriors. Watching the Countess act like this, our boy is reminded of what Hannah mentioned about the Countess growing increasingly short-tempered and violent. But after seeing it up close, he can tell it is far worse than he imagined. He tells Sue to let her go, then turns to Shuel and orders him to bring Kakantir and Nursarin to the scene. The Countess, still seething, curses the MC and tells him to die. She accuses him of ruining everything and blames him for the situation they are in. Our hero, however, remains calm and reminds her that the investigation team is still stationed inside the mansion and warns her if they are discovered, he will be left with no other option but to hand both her and Chell over. Chell asks him whether he is helping them and what has happened to the Count. Our boy can see the exhaustion written all over his face and tells him that the Count has already been captured and lies that there had been nothing he could do to stop it. He then tells both the Countess and Chell to get ready to leave with the warriors once the sun comes up. The MC can guess that the Countess has no real destination in mind apart from her family, so he asks where they are now. She answers that they are in Fontrola. He knows that place is far in the north, and if they avoid passing through Marilof, the journey will take at least 2 weeks. The Countess then suggests they stop by Marilof to get supplies, clothes, food, anything they might need. But he quickly tells her that is not an option, because after the butler's death, Marilof has sealed their gates shut. Countess mutters that this should not be happening to her. She starts behaving strangely, and insists they need to stop by one of the mansion's rooms before leaving and then make their way to Marilof anyway. The MC asks her if she has lost her mind, but the Countess holds her ground. She believes that if the Count is still alive, all they have to do is wait for a reply from the palace. She does not think they would dare kick them out. In fact, she is confident they can borrow money and find help if they try. Our hero has heard enough. He snaps at her to keep quiet and warns that if she does not, he will make sure she does. He cannot believe the Countess is speaking so carelessly while everything is falling apart around them. Outside, Cockatier is preparing for the next step. He hands the task over to Shuel and Naru, assigning them the responsibility of escorting the Countess and Chell at dawn. He instructs them to make sure they are buried deep, so well hidden that no one will be able to find any trace. As he waits, Cockatier cannot help but wonder how much longer the capital army will continue circling the outskirts. By morning, Philip comes to Erica with an update. He reports that the Countess and Chell have been seen at the northern gates. Apparently they have managed to slip past the soldiers guarding the entrance and escape. He adds that 4 people are seen in total, and as soon as they get past the gates, they split into 2 groups. Erica knows that they cannot head to Marilof as it is on lockdown. She asks Philip to confirm whether the Countess is from Fontrola. Once he says yes, she instructs him to send a telegram to that region immediately. Then Philip waits for her decision on how many soldiers should be dispatched to go after them. But Erica does not respond right away. She stops to think it through. She is well aware that it could be a trap, and there is also a chance they have allies waiting in hiding. And if she sends too many knights to chase them down, the MC and the Heavenly Warriors might take control of the mansion in their absence. So she decides to send 20 knights. Her order is firm that she wants the Countess and Chell alive, but if that is not possible, then she wants their corpses, and even their heads will do. To Erica, this is a golden chance. If she captures the fugitives, no one will be able to argue against her becoming the new lord. It will also give her the upper hand over our hero and his group, and eventually everything will finally tilt in her favor. But things don't go as she has planned. Not long after, she receives devastating news that all the knights she has sent are wiped out. Only one returns, barely alive. He is injured but still breathing, and he delivers a chilling report that the attackers killed the captain instantly, and what followed was a total massacre. He adds that they call themselves the Knights of Durga, and from the way they fought, it is clear they were highly skilled. Erica asks if he saw the Countess and Chell there, and he confirms he did. She dismisses him, and starts thinking about forming a second team to go after them again. But before she can move on, frustration hits her as there has been no reply from the capital. Philip tries to explain that the certificate of appointment comes with the Emperor's seal and a designated messenger in a golden carriage, so he assures her it is just a long, slow process. Switching her focus back to our boy and the Heavenly Warriors, Erica asks for updates. Philip tells her that they have not made any moves and are occupied with rebuilding the village, and that is how the locals are warming up to him and appreciating the help. That annoys her even more. While they have been chasing runaways, our boy and his group have won the favor of the people. Then something hits her. The timing feels off, and it does not sit right with her that after all this time with no sight of the Countess and Chell, they suddenly appear and escape on horseback. She begins suspecting the MC might be behind it. She immediately orders Philip to bring in the person responsible for managing the barns. She is furious for not checking the Brock horses while they were so busy chasing. Just then there is a knock. The door opens and our hero steps in. He asks how things are going with the chase. He is just curious because if the Countess and Chell are still alive, then technically, he is not safe. Then he brings up whether Erica is completely sure that they escaped with the Brack Knights, and there are not any traitors among her own people. He points out that if some of her own knights have helped hide the fugitives to make things harder for her, that would be pretty unfortunate for her. The Royal Investigation Team has one clear goal, to bring down the Brack family. But to complete that mission, they must capture both the Countess and her son, Chell. Their orders are strict. Even if the two go missing, they must be found, dead or alive. Only then can the team submit their final report. Erica is furious at our boy and demands to know how he managed to locate the Countess and Chell. Our hero remains unfazed and acts as if he has no idea what she is talking about. Erica, however, is not fooled one bit. She sees through his act that he is clearly pretending. Losing her patience, she points her sword directly at him and accuses him of teaming up with the Heavenly Warriors to go against the Empire. Still, the MC keeps up the innocent act. He claims she is accusing the wrong person, and even suggests that she go ahead and check with the Heavenly Warriors herself to see if any of them are missing. His smug tone only adds fuel to Erika's fire. He pushes her further and asks whether she is really not going to check, then sarcastically mocks the royal investigators for being a bit too relaxed when they are supposed to be working. Right at that moment, Philip rushes in with an update that according to the head of the stables, 2 horses are missing. Our hero jumps at the chance to twist the knife and urges Erika to move quickly and go after the real traitors, all while pointing out that it must be her knight's doing. Erika spins around to leave, but not without a sharp warning to kill him for sure. The MC simply chuckles and tells her to ease up a little, as she is starting to scare him. After leaving, Erika commands Philip to gather all available soldiers, leaving behind only the bare minimum as she plans to depart the rest to chase down the Countess and Chell. Philip tries to reason with her, but she cuts him off. She is convinced the knights who ran away with the fugitives are actually heavenly warriors, and she warns him not to let his guard down. She plans to capture them and expose the truth, even if they try to deny everything later. She also orders Philip to keep a close eye on our boy and the clan head, and to report immediately if anything odd happens. Elsewhere, Nursarin gets word that the investigators are on the move and shares the news with Kakantir. He decides to send a falcon and asks if it's okay to use Zeno to inform the warriors to eliminate the Countess and Chell. Kakantir tells him it's fine, but reminds him to feed Zeno something sweet since the bird has been acting a little off lately. Nursarin then admits he is worried, as the warriors are currently up in the mountains, and they are more used to the heat and dry sands of the desert. He wonders how they are managing in such a different climate. Kakantir asks if he has lost trust in his own people. Nursarin denies it, but he just cannot help but worry. He thinks once the capital's army retreats, they should take care of the Count and wrap everything up. After all, they cannot afford to leave their homeland unattended for long. Kakantir, on the other hand, has something else on his mind. If our hero does end up going to the palace as planned, then he will have to leave Brock eventually, and Kakantir wonders who will stay behind to manage the territory then. Nursarin thinks about it for a moment. They both agree that Barrack will probably go with the MC, and even if he stays, handling the entire territory alone might be too much for a lunatic like him. Kakantir's silent stare says enough, and Nursarin catches on to what he is suggesting and immediately refuses. He knows deep down that staying behind might actually help the warriors more, but there are complications. First, there is no telling if our boy will approve of that. And second, more importantly, Nursarin himself does not want to stay. He hates the cold, and the territory is just too chilly for him. Kakantir gets it that weather like this is a big deal. Nursarin just hopes that the official appointment letter arrives before the weather gets worse. From the way things are dragging, though, it seems like everything is being delayed. Kakantir agrees and wonders what exactly the people at the palace are up to, taking so long. Over in the capital city of Burial Empire, inside the first prince's palace, Marev Varochian, a knock is heard on the door. His aide enters, holding a letter from Count Brach. It does not have an official seal, but it did come with the family treasure, which gives it some weight. Marev reads it through, then hands it over to his aide and asks him to read it too. He wants the aide to point out the parts he thinks are true, and the parts he finds suspicious. The aide struggles, as it's not easy to tell. The letter is written in a way that blends fact and fiction together. Marev then explains that the part about Moline and the second prince, Gale, inviting the Count to join their noble alliance is likely true. The alliance does exist, and Moline is definitely on Gale's side. But the part where the Count claims to have turned them down out of loyalty to Marev is what he doubts, as the Count is not that close to him to make such a bold choice. The aide agrees somewhat. He thinks the refusal itself might be real, but not the reason given. Marev suspects that the Count probably distanced himself because the tax evasion charges were actually true, and that's likely why the investigators were sent. He then asks who is leading the team and learns that it is Erika, one of Molin's people. The aide also brings up the rumors about Gale possibly planning a coup. Marev does not give a straight answer but admits it's something to think about. He then instructs the aide to collect every recent report involving Brach, especially the one submitted by Moline. Marev also mentions that he will attend the morning meeting and wants others informed as well. He just hopes Gale won't make any reckless moves. At the next morning's meeting, the nobles are surprised to see Marev present. They whisper among themselves and even suggest calling Gale to join. Once all the other matters are discussed, the final issue on the table is the Brach family's tax evasion. It's confirmed that some of the Count's assets have been seized. But when the investigators and the Count's private guards clashed, they failed to capture him, and his wife and son ran away. Upon hearing the details, the nobles are outraged. They call for the Count to face serious punishment and even suggest taking the matter directly to the Emperor. That is when Marev asks if the charges are limited to just the Count, his wife, and Chell, or if the MC should be included too. He points out that our boy, being the Count's illegitimate son, is a part of this mess as well. The official who is overseeing the meeting responds that our boy has already been declared ineligible to be part of the family, and should be enslaved instead of executed, as per the law. He adds that our hero even made peace with the heavenly warriors and surrendered the Brock borders to them. The official then asks if Marev has something on his mind, but Marev responds that he is just thinking out loud. But deep inside, Marev cannot help but wonder that if the MC and Mullen both reported the count, it means our boy has sided with Gale, and he finds it troublesome for him. The conversation then shifts to what will happen to the Brock territory after the family is gone. One noble suggests assigning someone from the capital to govern it to avoid another nation overtaking it and getting stronger. Plus, it would also help with collecting the overdue taxes. Marev, however, does not share the same thoughts. Since the investigators have already clashed with the locals once, he thinks there is a good chance the people won't accept someone from the capital, and that kind of tension could hurt the region's production as well. On top of that, Brock is close to the Heavenly Warriors' land, and no one from the palace even speaks their language. Wesley, the Minister of Magic, asks if Marev has something planned. Marev replies that the best move given the situation is to delay choosing a new lord for the territory at least until things settle down. Wesley does not hold back her concern and points out that leaving the lord's seat empty might stir up even more trouble later on. But Marev seems unfazed. He explains that he has already considered that, and instead of rushing into naming a new lord, he has a different approach in mind. His idea is to appoint an advisor temporarily, someone who can step in, handle things for the time being, and most importantly, let them observe how the situation plays out. If that person manages the responsibilities well and earns the trust of the people, only then will it make sense to move forward with a proper appointment. But Wesley is not ready to drop the matter just yet. She argues that Erica is already on the ground, actively involved, and still working hard on the issue, so they should just make her the lord and be done with it. Marev immediately shuts that suggestion down. From his point of view, putting Erica in charge would only backfire. After all, the people of Brock still see her as a murderer. On top of that, her focus is narrowed down to just 3 targets, and she has not even managed to locate 2 of them yet. Marev reminds everyone that this is not just any mission but came directly from the Emperor himself. So it's not just about getting the job done, it's about protecting the Emperor's name and maintaining the dignity of Burial. The official leading the meeting listens to both sides and finds value in both opinions. He turns to the rest of the group and asks for their thoughts. The room ends up split, as some side with Marev's more cautious approach, while others agree with Wesley's practical solution. After a round of back-and-forth discussion, the head of the meeting finally announces that they will be wrapping up the discussion and declares a decision. Meanwhile in Brach, the Central Investigation Army Squad is on the move, making their way to search for the Countess and Chell. As they march through, the citizens notice them and realize that the rumors about the Countess and Chell escaping must be true. People begin shouting loudly, calling the Countess and Chell traitors. They hope they never return. Some even turn on the army itself and yell for the soldiers to leave and never come back again. From inside the mansion, Erica watches the scene unfold. Deep down, she just hopes her knights manage to bring back the bodies at the very least. But before she can dwell too much on it, she finds herself stopped by the Heavenly Warriors. They inform her that from then on, they will be using the mansion as their base. With the capital army gone, only 5 members of the investigation team remain, so the warriors tell her to move out and take the tents. Erica, who is already under pressure, snaps at them and demands they show some respect. The warrior replies that if she has a problem, she can take it to Kakantir himself. Erica then storms into Kakantir's room, where the MC is also present, and confronts them directly. She demands they be the ones to use the tents instead. Kakantir does not seem the least bit bothered. He tells her that if she really insists, he can offer her a room, but it will be the old storage space at the very end of the hallway. To fit everyone, there would need to be fewer people in her team. Just to stir the pot, he even offers to help with that himself to take out a few since his sword has not been used in a while. Erica boils with anger but swallows it. She knows that if she just had the official appointment letter from the capital, she could take control of the mansion and order them out in a heartbeat. Right on cue, Philip bursts into the room, clearly excited. He announces that a letter from the capital has finally arrived. Erica lights up immediately, thinking her time has come at last. She turns to Kakantir and our hero with a smug look and declares that they are done. Philip even congratulates her and adds that the message came through a pigeon. Upon hearing that, Erica suddenly freezes. Our boy begins to suppress his laugh, and both Philip and Kakantir look puzzled. The problem? An official appointment letter for a lord would not be sent through something as informal as a pigeon. Sure enough, once they read the contents, it becomes clear. Instead of confirming Erica's position as the new lord, the letter explains that the palace is sending temporary advisors to help manage reconstruction. The names include Molan, Romandro, Mac, and Dagor. Among them, Romandro is in charge of handling the punishment of the Count. Only after the territory is stabilized will a proper appointment be considered. Erica is visibly upset, Kakantir grabs the letter from her and hands it to the MC, who reads it, and then explains the situation in detail that these advisors are there to assess everything, including the Heavenly Warriors. Kakantir understands immediately that Erica now ranks below all of them in the eyes of the capital. Erica is left to stew in her frustration. With the appointment pushed off, she cannot even be the one to sentence the Count. She will just be left chasing fugitives, and her shot at becoming Lord is slipping away fast. Right then, our hero offers her a deal. He tells her that he can help her at least get the satisfaction of executing the Count. In return, he wants those who read the letter to keep quiet about it. His plan is to execute the Count before Romandro arrives in 2 weeks, so the Count and Romandro never come face to face. But he insists that the execution should be done by the Heavenly Warriors, as it does not really matter who strikes the final blow. Erica asks for some time to think, though she already knows she does not have many options left. As she walks out, Sue enters the room, holding a dead pigeon. She asks if the bird was from the palace too. It turns out she killed it because it kept pecking at the window and got on her nerves. Our boy takes the letter tied to the bird's leg. It's from Molin, addressed to Erica. In the letter, Molin explains that the Count sent a message to Marev, which caused Marev to unexpectedly attend the meeting and ruin Erica's chances of becoming Lord. Still, Molin tells her not to worry, as he plans to come to Brock soon and create a new opportunity for her. The MC shares the news with Kakantir. Our boy kind of expected something like this, as everything had been going too smoothly after all. Kakantir wonders when the Count managed to send that letter, but to our hero, it does not really matter anymore, as Marev has already shaken everything up. Still, he believes this new situation might actually benefit them. He plans to welcome Romandro warmly when he arrives. Since Marev probably thinks that he and Moline are working together, and perhaps he is even siding with Gale, he knows it's best to keep things calm. Kakantir points out that Moline likely sees them as obstacles, especially our boy. The MC agrees, and this is the very reason he wants to make their position clear, as they cannot afford to be caught between two sides. Kakantir asks if he is planning to side with Marev. Our hero admits that Marev is the most capable and also the rightful heir, and since the advisors are handling reconstruction, he thinks their opinion will likely decide when the Heavenly Warriors can return home. Kakantir was already thinking about that. Once their goal gets completed after the Count is dead, he plans to send a few warriors back before the cold season sets in. Our boy already figured that he would. Kakantir then tells the MC that it's all up to him about whether he becomes Lord or not, depending on how well he can handle the political game ahead. Our hero knows that very well and assures him not to worry, as he is ready to handle it. A few days later, early in the morning, a hawk arrives with news. The message confirms that the Countess and Chell are dead, and preparations for the Count's execution begins. In the cold, damp underground prison where the Count is being kept, our boy enters. The Count, who is bound and silenced, can only look up as the MC steps closer. Our hero informs the Count that his execution is scheduled on the very day, and there is no escaping it. He also thanks him for sending that letter to Marev. Even though the Count had no idea, his actions ended up stopping Erica from being named the Lord of the territory. And since her stay in Brock has become pointless, the decision to bring the execution forward came easily. The Count clearly wants to respond, to say something, but his mouth is tightly shut and covered. He can only move slightly, eyes full of something between panic and rage. Our boy, however, has more to say. He informs him that his wife and son are both dead, and he is the only one left who carries the Brock name. Then, he presses his foot against the Count's head, forcing his face against the dirty ground. He lays out every sin the Count committed. He reminds him of the woman he assaulted in a brothel, how that act led to a child, Ian, and how the Count then tore that child away from his mother, planning to sell him off. He also calls him out for plotting against the Heavenly Warriors and for stealing from his own people through false tax reports. In the end, he adds, the Count was rejected not only by the capital, but also by his own land and people, and the karma is finally catching up to him. With that, he turns around and walks out, leaving the Count behind, struggling and trying to speak through the gag. As he steps outside, he happens to glance toward the mansion and sees Erica looking out from behind the curtains. Their eyes meet just briefly before she quickly draws them shut. Erica's frustration is boiling inside her. She feels completely stuck, with no real control left. She has been waiting for Molin to reach out to her, but so far there is nothing from his side. She grows more and more irritated because she knows if this continues, the Count will be executed without her involvement. And once that is done, she will have no reason to stay in Brach either. Just then, she gets word that the preparations for the execution are complete. Without delay, she turns around and heads straight down to the site. At the location, she gives the order to bring out the Count. As he is dragged forward, his terrible condition becomes visible, and the gathered townspeople look on. Some whisper among themselves and talk about how the Countess and Chell had died too. They mention how the investigator army left while trying to find them, and that soon, the Heavenly Warriors will probably leave as well, definitely before the harsh winter arrives. Still, Despite all that has happened, the people seem relieved that their lives can go back to some kind of normal. Standing at the front, Erica begins with a brief introduction and then starts listing the Count's crimes. She begins with the falsified tax records. The crowd listens closely, and it starts to sink in that the Count had been stealing from them for years, taking their hard-earned money through false reporting. Erica continues explaining how the coal mines had actually produced large quantities, but the Count reported only half, deliberately misrepresenting the numbers so he could keep the rest for himself. When the actual figures are mentioned, the anger in the crowd starts to rise. The people had worked long and hard, only to be cheated out of their fair share. Now that the truth is out, their frustration is boiling over. Erica then announces the final judgment. Under the laws of the Burial Empire, anyone bearing the name Brack is sentenced to death. The knight standing next to the Count removes the blindfold covering his eyes. He blinks against the light and sees the crowd glaring back at him, faces full of hatred. People yell out and wish for him to suffer and die in pain. The MC also watches from among the crowd, quietly observing. As the Count is hanged in front of everyone, the crowd erupts, and stones start flying through the air, striking the Count one after another. The people vent all their anger at the man who stole from them. Soon they begin hurling anything they can get their hands on. Among the crowd stands Kakantir. He lifts a large spear and throws it hard. It pierces straight through the Count. And it's not just one. Several more follow, one after another, until finally, the Count is declared dead. Kakantir then glances toward our hero, who has not thrown anything. In Kakantir's mind, it should have been our boy's hands around the Count's neck instead of the rope. The MC does not seem to notice, but he can feel something deep inside. Watching the Count die fills him with a strange mix of feelings, something he cannot fully explain. Part of him had hoped the Count would beg for forgiveness, not as a noble, but to Ian, the son he abandoned. Even though the course of history has shifted in this life, he still remembers the original path. In that life, just for being the Count's illegitimate son, Ian would have been sold off like property and ended up as nothing. Kakantir then turns to him and asks him whether he feels any better now that it's all over. Our boy nods slightly, but even as the Count is gone, he knows deep down that this is only the beginning. After the execution wraps up, Erica turns to Philip and asks if there has been any word from the capital's reinforcements. Philip responds that the reinforcements have indeed arrived, but adds that, according to them, every single trace of the Countess and Chell has vanished without a clue. Erica swears in frustration and demands to know the last place where they were seen. Philip explains that the trail came to an abrupt end near a small village, and after that, their tracks seem to completely disappear into the forest beyond that point. He also tells her that, according to the trackers, they received a messenger pigeon from the General Assembly. The message instructed that, if the pursuit of the Countess and Chell becomes delayed or continues dragging on, all soldiers involved should be recalled. Erica did not see that coming at all. But Philip continues that a return order has already been issued to all the soldiers that were sent to the provinces. What is not clear, though, is whether that order came directly from the Assembly or someone else behind the scenes. The news clearly unsettles Erica because if the full reinforcement force from the capital could not find even a single trace of the Countess and Chell, then there is no way she can do it with just the few people remaining in her Inquisition team. She finds herself genuinely doubting whether it's even possible anymore. Philip then brings up another point as he asks if she has received any letter or communication from Moline. It's because the captain of the reinforcements had told him they were acting on orders from Moline and the General Assembly. That same captain had even asked Philip about their own plans moving forward, but Philip could not respond properly since he had not received any updates either. Erica knows that pigeons sent from the capital wear enchanted magic stones, so they cannot get lost mid-flight. If something went wrong, it was not by accident. Her suspicion rises, and in her mind, she is already piecing together who might be behind it. Without waiting another second, she storms into the MC's room in a rage and demands to cut open the stomach of the hawk perched on Nursarin's shoulder. Nursarin does not take her outburst lightly. In fact, he fires back and warns her that if anyone's stomach is going to be opened, it will be hers, and that too right before she ends up hanging just like the Count. Erica insists that the hawk might have swallowed a messenger pigeon, and that is why they are missing an important message. Upon hearing that, our boy tells her that the bird did not eat the pigeon. There had been an accident, and they had already buried the pigeon. He also mentions that he removed the magic stone from it before doing so. Erica does not let it go. She snaps at him and accuses him of tampering with an imperial pigeon, something she considers a serious offense. But he corrects her that it was not an official pigeon from the palace, but it was a personal letter sent by Moline. That catches Erica off guard. Her anger turns into concern. She knows Moline has a tendency to act carelessly, and she is afraid he may have written something sensitive in the letter. She calls him an idiot under her breath and demands the letter. Our hero does not hand it over immediately. Instead, he tells her he wants her to leave Brack within 4 days after finishing up her business. He believes Moline sent the letter in a rush, and that it would be best for everyone if she just leaves quickly. Erica does not miss the point. She realizes that he is trying to push her out of the territory. Still, without further argument, she snatches the letter from him and declares that she will recover the corpses the next day and leave after that. But she does not leave without a final warning that he needs to be gone before the advisor arrives. Being excluded from the family registry does not shield him, and once the official sent by the capital steps into Brock, his thin layer of authority will vanish. No matter how confident he acts, the truth of his birth will catch up with him. To her, he is still just an illegitimate son born in a brothel, clinging to borrowed strength from the warriors. And that strength, she believes, won't protect him for long. The moment she refers to the heavenly warriors as barbarians, our boy's patience wears thin, and he dismisses her words entirely. If the advisor comes looking for her and she has vanished from the picture, he threatens her that he will say she is dead, and that will be the end of it. Erica does not flinch and makes it clear that her departure is temporary. She fully intends to return, and when she does, she will come back prepared. But her conviction meets something she did not expect. The MC, calm as ever, simply responds that he has no intention of letting her return. To make that fact unmistakably clear, he calls upon his magic not in a grand display, but just enough to shift the air to let her feel it. For him, this is not a game of pride anymore, but it's a warning that Erica's role is to recover the bodies, return to the capital, and disappear. If she tries anything beyond that, he warns her that she won't make it back. The display hits its mark, and Erica turns and leaves, carrying with her the weight of a truth she has not been ready to face. Outside, Philip sees her and rushes up, asking what happened. Erica remains silent as she is trying to wrap her head around what she just witnessed. Now that she understands why he was so sure of himself, she knows there is no way he is going to be made a slave. On the contrary, the capital will probably come crawling to recruit him. She quickly gathers herself and gives Philip instructions. She wants him to prepare for departure, hand over the Count's body to the reinforcements, and send out a search party to recover the Countess and Chell. She is determined to get this over with quickly, and make herself look efficient and capable in front of the capital officials. As the investigation troops begin to leave Brock, the MC watches them from the window. From the look in his eyes, it's clear he knows things are starting to come together. With everything finally moving forward, he decides it's time for him to go see Philia. Not long after, Barrick leads him deep into the forest. The path is not familiar to our hero, and he starts to worry whether they are even going the right way. Barrick reassures him, though, that he had left a mark by a black rock. And anyway, it was our boy who told him to hide Philia somewhere secure, so Barrick made sure she was hidden far away, in a place no one would easily find. Eventually, they arrive at a small wooden cabin, tucked away in the quiet part of the forest. The MC steps inside and scans through the space, but there is no Silask in sight. Then Philia shows up, holding a bunch of fruits she had just gathered. She drops them in shock when she sees our hero standing there, and runs over and hugs him tight. She asks if he has been eating properly, and tearfully remarks that he looks terrible. Meanwhile, Barrick glances at our boy and wonders what she is talking about, as he does not look all that bad to him. After settling down, the MC explains everything that has happened in Brock. Once he is done, he tells Philia that while the Count may be gone, there is still a lot left to deal with. With people from the capital arriving soon, he plans to follow them back. That is why, with a heavy heart, he tells her that he is not sure whether they will get the chance to see each other again. Philia begins to cry and hopes she will get to see him again. He reassures her, and that alone is enough for her in the moment. She wraps her arms around him tightly, and finds comfort just in knowing he is right there beside her. She then tells him that she does not want to return to the village. Compared to how things used to be in the slums, this quiet place feels like paradise. She enjoys waking up to the warm sunlight and listening to the cool stream water nearby. Life there is peaceful, and most importantly, she feels safe. But what truly matters most to her is seeing him finally standing up for himself. He promises her that the situation will be taken care of soon. He gives her his word that he will make sure she's freed from all of this, and even promises to find a proper place for her where she can live the kind of life she deserves. But Philia does not want him to worry about her. Despite the war breaking out and the Count being gone, he is still standing strong, and to her, that is more than enough. Our hero then brings up the red potted flower she once gave him. Philia remembers getting it in return for running an errand for a merchant union. She does not recall their name, but she does remember that the merchant group was a pretty big one. Back then, the MC had even helped out with their work since they were short on hands. In return, the union gave them a generous amount of money and the small plant as a thank you gift. Our boy asks her to try to remember anything else about it. Philia tries to dig through her memories and recalls someone important from the union, though the name is fuzzy. Still, she remembers clearly that our hero had looked genuinely happy back then. The MC thinks there might be a link between Silask, the necklace owner, and this merchant group. Since it was a well-known union, he figures someone in the nearby village might remember something useful. With that thought in mind, he stands up, ready to head out. Before leaving, Philia hands him bags full of gula seeds she gathered. just like he asked her to. He is taken aback by how many she managed to collect. She then asks him what he needs them for. Instead of answering right away, our boy pops one into his mouth and eats it and tells her they are edible and not poisonous. Barrack, however, reacts with horror. The moment he realizes what our hero just did, he rushes over in a panic and pushes him to spit it out. But it's too late, as the MC has already swallowed it. Our boy just gives him a mischievous look and wishes him luck. Barrack gets even more worked up and assumes he means he will faint soon and Barrack will have to carry him all the way back. But our boy instructs him to take the gula seeds to the mansion and hide them somewhere safe. Meanwhile, a carriage rolls down the path toward Brack territory. Inside it sits Ramandro, the reconstruction advisor, who curses his luck. After finally finishing his assignment restoring the temple that collapsed during the massive earthquake, Marev immediately sent him off again. This time to Brack. The poor man has not even had time to see his wife. He mutters to himself that Marev is heartless. Molin, seated in front of him, snaps him out of his thoughts by asking what he thinks about the situation in Brack. Ramandro gives a heavy sigh and replies that things look serious, judging from Erica's report. He admits he does not know what they will be walking into, but he will be relieved if they get through it without being pelted with rocks. Molin shares his frustration as well. His plan had been fairly simple, but it all went sideways after Erica got involved. Now, he can only hope there are no more complications waiting for them. As the carriage finally nears the estate, Ramandro catches sight of warriors stationed around the mansion, and he gets immediately alarmed. No one had warned him about this. Molin watches his reaction and understands why no one wanted to share that little detail in advance. At that moment, our hero approaches the carriage and knocks gently. He greets them calmly, but when they refer to him using the Brock surname, he corrects them and makes it clear that name is no longer in use, and no one should refer to it anymore. He figures their letter must not have reached them yet because of the distance, and assures them that once they are inside, he will explain everything properly. Once inside, the MC takes a moment to introduce Ramandro to Kakantir and Nursaren. Ramandro, though clearly uneasy, extends a polite handshake and greets them. Once everyone is seated, our boy begins explaining about how the Brock family and the Heavenly Warriors have become allies. He claims that while he was still in the Great Desert, word reached him of a major battle erupting back home. The Heavenly Warriors, upon hearing of it, came to his aid only to stumble upon the Count's long-hidden wrongdoings in the process. Though conflict did break out, he explains that it was unavoidable under the circumstances. With Erica's investigation team busy handling their own tasks, the warriors stepped in and offered their help with the reconstruction efforts, filling the gap left behind. Ramandro listens, but he points out that none of this information was in Erica's reports. He asks where she is now. Our hero tells him she is still out in the field, tracking down the Count's wife and their son. Then, suddenly, Molin throws a document toward him, which he explains is an official order to eliminate him. Molin also reminds everyone of the law that since the MC shares blood with the disgraced Count, he should be treated as a slave. He scoffs at our boy's appearance and mocks him for dressing like nobility. Not only that, he even accuses him of possibly forcing Erica to cooperate, given how strange the situation seems. Our hero is done reading the document and then sets it aside. He explains that although his heart belongs to Burial, he officially belongs to the Great Desert, and if they really intend to eliminate him, he plans to return to where he came from. Molin does not take that well and argues that he does not get to make such decisions on his own. At that point, Kakantir steps in. He states firmly that our boy does have that right because he gave it to him. He adds that the territory has become stable and the Heavenly Warriors are preparing to return home soon. Ramandro tries to ease the growing tension. Our hero agrees and shares that he was actually looking forward to Ramandro's arrival. He is aware that the Imperial Palace took care in choosing someone competent. Ramandro begins to share that things seem better than expected and that the first prince had personally selected him. But Molin interrupts again and drags the conversation back toward the issue of treason. He questions whether Ramandro intends to let a territory within the Empire be influenced by outsiders like the Heavenly Warriors. Ramandro, however, does not care who helps. What he cares about is that the people's lives are being improved. But Molin is not convinced. He insists that the Empire's laws must be respected, and even if our hero flees to the desert, Molin will still carry out those laws. Ramandro looks torn. He knows how important the MC is not only for the rebuilding efforts but also in maintaining leverage over the second prince. Our boy warns Molin one last time that if he goes to the desert, it won't end well for anyone. Molin realizes that our hero is far more intelligent and sharp than he initially thought. That only makes him more eager to push him out and bring Erica back in. He turns to Kakantir to thank him for his help and suggests that the warriors should step back. He claims there is no longer a need for their presence since reconstruction is already underway. Listening to a bastard child, in his view, is a mistake they are making. That is when our hero has finally had enough. He unleashes his magical power and reminds Molin again that if he goes to the desert, he will regret it. Ramandro is taken aback to witness our boy reveal his magic. He asks him about since when he has had this ability. The MC is a bit unsure himself and explains that he has been able to use it for quite a while, though it came naturally and without any formal training. To Ramandro, who has only ever associated magic with those in the Ministry of Magic, it's almost unbelievable. He never thought he would encounter a magic user outside of official circles. Deep down, Ramandro admits to himself that he always had a feeling our hero was more capable than he appeared. Now seeing him use magic right in front of him, Ramandro is convinced that most of what happened in Brock must have been centered around our boy in one way or another. In a moment of pure childlike excitement, Ramandro asks if he can shake the MC's hand. He mentions an old saying that it brings good fortune if someone meets a magic user before they become a full-fledged mage. Our hero did not expect that reaction. He lets out a soft laugh at the request but agrees, holding out his hand. Ramandro clasps it with both of his, visibly thrilled, and begins hoping that this strange turn of events might mean things will finally go smoothly, maybe even enough for him to head home soon in good health. Meanwhile, Mullen's mood is in stark contrast. What he just saw only confirms what he had suspected before. He remembers a moment, just a glimpse, when he caught sight of our hero's powers. At the time, our boy had smoothly changed the subject, and Moline, thinking it unimportant, had let it slide. But now he knows that was a mistake. He regrets not looking deeper, because if the MC is indeed a magic user, then all of Mullen's assumptions about bloodline and social status become irrelevant. This thought nags at him, and he wonders whether our hero plans to take over Brock territory. As if reading his thoughts, our boy asks Ramandro if he has any intentions of becoming the next Lord of Brock. Ramandro shakes his head and clarifies that he is there only to reconstruct the territory and help recover the missing taxes from the previous year. Initially, he had thought the assignment would be incredibly difficult, but after seeing the MC and the way things are being handled, he actually thinks it might be achievable. Our hero, however, is not just focused on the logistics. He can clearly see the political plays happening behind the scenes. He knows full well that the first prince intentionally delayed the decision about appointing the next lord, and that it was the second prince who forced Moline into this whole affair. So he turns the question around and asks Ramandro whether he is there on behalf of the first prince. Ramandro admits that Marev seems particularly interested in Brock, though he does not go into much detail. Still, the MC gets the message. He responds by promising to assist Ramandro in any way he can, hoping to build a strong working relationship. Watching this alignment grow between the two, Moline's irritation deepens. Our boy then proposes that they continue their conversation after dinner and encourages everyone to get some rest. The others nod in agreement and begin to disperse. But Moline lingers. Cockatier also walks off, leaving the MC and Moline alone in the room. Moline breaks the silence first. He questions our hero's intentions and his plans. Our boy does not understand what Moline is getting at. He reminds Moline that their arrangement was simple. He handed over the criminal, and in exchange, Moline granted him freedom. There were no promises beyond that. But Moline does not accept that explanation. He accuses the MC of lying about not knowing anything about magic back when they first met. In Moline's mind, our hero is scheming to seize control of the territory, and by hiding his abilities earlier, he made things far more difficult for him. Our hero does not react. He explains that at the time, he did what he believed was best for himself, and he is not responsible for how things have turned out since then. Whatever blame Moline wants to throw at him, it's misplaced. Moline grows more frustrated and questions our boy's plans again. Our boy simply tosses the question back at Moline. That takes Moline off guard for a moment. Then, he admits that he just wants someone cooperative in the position of Lord. If the MC does not want to give up that spot, Moline suggests they can negotiate. Our hero, however, is not having it. He challenges Moline for even suggesting a backdoor deal when the role of a lord should reflect the emperor's will, not someone's personal preferences. As Moline tries to defend himself, they are interrupted by the arrival of a message. Our hero is informed that a letter from Mariloff has come in. Taking the opportunity to end the conversation, he excuses himself and advises Moline to take a break. Moline stays where he is, stewing in quiet frustration. Later that evening, Ramandro receives his dinner in his quarters. It turns out to be fairly simple, nothing luxurious. He asks the servant if this is the usual meal everyone at the manor gets. The servant nods and explains that all subordinates are given the same food, but politely asks if there is anything else Ramandro might want. Ramandro waves off the offer. As he examines the tray, he notes that the food consists mostly of preserved items, dried and smoked goods, without any fresh fruits or vegetables. This tells him that the food supply is unstable. He figures it makes sense, considering the damage from the revolt and the loss of manpower. Still, he pushes those thoughts aside as he is content to eat at a proper table and rest somewhere that is not falling apart. Just as he finishes eating, there is a knock at the door. It's our boy. He steps inside and asks how the food is. Ramandro asks how Moline's doing. The MC shares that he is having dinner alone. He then hands Romandro a carefully compiled report on everything related to the reconstruction, neatly organized for reference. Romandro flips through the pages, impressed. He then brings up the matter of the food supply, hoping to get a clearer picture of how bad things really are. Our hero does not sugarcoat it and admits that ever since the Imperial soldiers and the Inquisition arrived, the already limited reserves have been stretched thin. At this point, they are relying entirely on what is left in the manor's storage, but even that won't hold out for long. With that in mind, he suggests a significant step of reducing the winter tax collection to just 30% of the usual amount. He does not stop there, though. He continues and points out that the citizens have only reported about half of the assets they had last year, which paints a clear picture of how deeply the conflict has affected them. Rebuilding under these conditions would be nearly impossible without help from outside, and if the Imperial Palace agrees to exempt Brock from taxes this year, then collecting even 50% might become a viable option. Romandro listens closely, and as the pieces fall into place, he cannot help but be stunned. This was the same young man so many dismissed as a low-born bastard. Yet there he is laying out a plan that is not only thoughtful, but also detailed and practical enough to implement right away. Still, Romandro keeps his tone careful as he responds. As much as he admires our boy's insight, he reminds him that his own mission is just to restore order. Changing tax policy, unfortunately, is beyond his authority. The MC then offers a backup plan. He presents a new set of documents and explains that Marilov's count recently sent a letter and is willing to sell food if our hero sends over a list of what they need and how much it will cost. Romandro carefully looks over the list, and he genuinely cannot hide how surprised he is to see how thoroughly our hero has managed things. The level of organization and the attention to detail are far beyond what he expected from someone so often brushed off by others. Our boy then goes on to explain that Marilov's own situation with staple grains, especially rice, is not exactly ideal either. Their stock is not looking too good, and because of that, prices are expected to be a bit higher than usual. Even so, Romandro does not seem discouraged. In fact, if things stay on track, there is a good chance he might be able to wrap everything up and return to the capital before the first snowfall hits. The MC adds that although they plan to trade with Marilov, the funds on their end are pretty limited at the moment. Still, he believes they should be able to secure at least a week's worth of food supplies. Romandro, however, is not too worried. He lets him know that he does have access to the reconstruction funds, so with those, they might be able to cover enough for nearly 2 months' worth of supplies instead. With that sorted out, our hero decides it's time to send a reply back to Marilov and get the ball rolling. As he steps out of the room, he is immediately greeted by Kakantir, Nurserin, and Barrick, who are already waiting for him in the corridor. Our boy tells them that they have got another problem on their hands. The MC explains to them that Romandro does not have the authority to change the objectives assigned to him. Kakantir thought our boy had already suspected that might be the case, and our hero confirms it. He had a feeling this would happen, though he had been hoping it would not come to this. But now that things are clear, he thinks they have no choice but to settle for the next best option available. When Barrick asks about the reconstruction funds, the MC tells him that Romandro brought along 3,000 gold coins, specifically for that purpose. Our boy then starts laying out his new plan. He believes that approaching Marilov early on is the smartest move they can make, and he wants to make sure everything is thoroughly prepared in advance to avoid complications. Kakantir nods and shifts the topic slightly. He thinks that Romandro seems to have a rather positive attitude towards them and asks our hero if he feels the same way. The MC agrees that there is definitely a sense of goodwill. After all, Romandro was sent by Prince Marev, so it makes sense that he would be more willing to oppose people like Moline and Prince Gale. Our boy knows that Romandro probably assumed at first that he was on Gale's side, especially since the Count's downfall involved both him and Moline. But now that Romandro has seen Moline openly treating him like an enemy, it's likely that his assumptions have shifted. Our hero is sure that Romandro has begun to realize where he should stand, and the MC plans to bring him fully over to his side so everything can move according to plan. Kakantir then brings up something else that caught his attention. He was genuinely surprised by how Romandro reacted when he found out the MC was a magic user. He did not expect someone from the Empire to show that much respect. Still, Kakantir believes that becoming the Lord of Brock is not out of reach anymore, and he wants to take advantage of the timing before fall arrives. He instructs Nurserin to keep a close watch on Molin, Mac, and Dagor, just to be safe. Then our boy turns to Barrick and checks in on the task he had assigned earlier. Barrick confirms it's done, and the magic stones for eavesdropping have been placed. Meanwhile, over in Moline's room, things are not going smoothly. Mac is frustrated because he cannot figure out a solid plan. Dagor tries to get him to settle down, but Mac is not having it. He insists that the next lord, whether it's Erica or someone else, has to be someone who sides with them. Remembering our hero's confident behavior earlier, Mac believes that the MC could easily use his status as a magic user and the Heavenly Warriors backing him to gain more ground. Now that he is also sticking close to Romandro, things are getting even trickier. Mac assumes that our boy probably already figured out they are there to observe Romandro and vice versa. So Mac thinks they should stop backing Erica and instead try to push someone else forward. But Daegor quickly shoots that idea down. He calls Mac an idiot for forgetting what kind of person Erica really is. She is not loyal to Prince Gale, but she is just power-hungry. He reminds her that if they shut her out, no one knows what she might do. At that moment, Mulan, who has been quietly listening all along, finally speaks up. He mentions that if the person in their way refuses to move, and there is no path around them, then the only option is to move through them, meaning they will have to get rid of whoever is standing in front. And for that, he adds that if it's a magic user causing the problem, it's even more important to act before he becomes a fully fledged mage. Mac agrees with him. He is also worried that if the MC grows stronger too fast, they will completely lose control over him, and he will end up blocking Prince Gale's rise. Moline is fully aware that without our boy, the Heavenly Warriors will lose their reason for staying in Brock, and without his support, Romandro will also be left without anyone to rely on and won't be able to use his position properly. What really gets under Molin's skin is that someone born so low would dare get in the way of his master's plans. But he is not going to rush things. He knows that there are other ways, and for the time being, he decides to just observe the situation quietly. What none of them knows is that Hannah has been listening in on the entire conversation through the magic stones. Now if we look at the map of Brack territory, the Heavenly Warriors clan is positioned in the eastern region, near the vast Great Desert. On the other hand, if you go west past the Mana Desert, you will reach the neighboring territory of Marilof. Since Marilof borders the Hawan Kingdom, it's always been a place with active trade. In the past, it was so close to Brack that the wives of both counts used to visit each other quite often. A carriage finally rolls up to the gates of Marilof, carrying representatives from Brack. Inside are our hero and Romandro. As they approach, the gates open, and they are allowed in without delay. The MC mentions to Romandro that after the chaos in Brack, Marilof shut its gates tight. He figures they did not want to get dragged into the mess. Although they did send a letter to check on the situation, our boy suspects that if Romandro had not shown up as an official advisor, Marilof might have tried to seize Brack territory for themselves during the confusion. Once they arrive at the estate, Count Carlo Marilof comes out to greet them. Romandro introduces himself formally, and Carlo quickly recognizes our boy. Our hero introduces himself too, and Carlo comments that he does not look anything like Durga, which the MC takes as a compliment. Carlo then invites them to sit and get straight to business, bringing up the food supply issue right away. Romandro explains that meals are unstable and people are struggling, so they came to request Marilof's support. Carlo shares that he understands their situation and sympathizes, but he makes it clear that he has to think about his own people. Still, he gives them a list of what they can purchase and the corresponding prices. Romandro reviews the list and then asks to speak with the MC in private. Carlo chuckles at the request and lightly mocks Romandro for wanting our boy's opinion. He adds a comment about how officials from the capital must not have any prejudice, then excuses himself to have their meal prepared in the meantime, while sarcastically mocking that they won't eat this well once they return. After he is gone, Romandro is clearly annoyed at Carlo's attitude. Our hero asks for the list and goes through it carefully. Right away, he notices that it's missing essential staples like corn, wheat, and even potatoes. Not only that, everything else on the list is priced at 5 times the normal rate. Romandro is also stunned. Even with the excuse of damages from the revolt, this is clearly excessive. The MC then tells Romandro to listen closely because he has got a more efficient idea for using the reconstruction funds. Romandro looks puzzled, so our boy motions him to come closer. Once he whispers the plan, Romandro's face changes immediately as he is completely taken aback. Word soon reaches Carlo that our boy and Romandro are preparing to head back, and they have requested for the meeting to be treated as if it never took place. That leaves Carlo puzzled. He had assumed that the Heavenly Warriors, who clearly dislike the cold, would retreat soon. And with the people in Brack suffering from a worsening food crisis, he believed they did not have many options left. Still, he does not bother to see them off and instead instructs the butler to just let them go. Marilof, being far from the capital, has mostly operated free from the Emperor's close eye. But if someone officially connected to the palace ends up becoming the Lord of Brack, the added surveillance from the capital is going to be inevitable. That is exactly why Carlo is so fixated on getting hold of Brack before it slips too far into Imperial hands. The MC, however, already understands what Carlo is aiming for and shares it openly with Romandro. Romandro agrees that if the Heavenly Warriors are on this side, Carlo's attempt won't come cheap. But our boy is sure Carlo has already weighed the risks and still finds it worth the gamble. Noticing that the butler has not shown up yet, he guesses that Carlo does not plan to see them off personally, so he suggests they just leave. But right at that moment, Carlo's wife, the Countess, appears. The MC respectfully greets her. He had heard that she used to be friends with Durga's wife, Mary, so he expected someone closer to Mary's age. But standing in front of him is someone much younger, and there is something about her demeanor that does not quite match the usual image of a noble's wife. She introduces herself as Rien Mariloff and politely acknowledges Romandro. Seeing that they have only just arrived and are already preparing to leave, she asks whether they were even offered food. Romandro explains that they were indeed offered a meal, but their schedule is quite packed, so they decided to leave early. He adds that maybe next time they could share a proper meal together. Rien sighs at the missed opportunity, then turns her attention to our boy. With a slight lean and a lowered voice, she curiously asks him who is currently using Mary's room. She explains that she had lent something to Mary in the past and has not gotten it back yet, so she is just wondering if anyone might be staying there. That jogs the MC's memory, as he remembers how urgently Mary had wanted to return to her room before leaving, and how she mentioned wanting to stop by Mariloff. So he reassures Rien that no one has been near that room and even invites her to visit anytime she likes. She smiles and thanks him. Just then, the butler finally appears. She asks him about the Count's whereabouts since the guests are already leaving. The butler explains that something urgent came up, and Carlo is currently caught up in it, so he won't be able to come out to see them off. He passes along a message on Carlo's behalf that, as a neighboring territory, they are always ready to offer support when needed. Romandro acknowledges the message with a nod and asks the butler to pass on their thanks before they take their leave. As the carriage leaves, Romandro wonders aloud if all the Margraves act this way. Rien, in particular, struck him as a bit unusual. Our hero agrees and admits that he did not expect her to be so young. Romandro, however, does not dwell on that for long. His focus shifts back to our boy's earlier plan, and he wants to know more. Specifically, he is curious about the crop the MC mentioned, the one that can be harvested in under a month. He leans in with a mixture of excitement and urgency and asks where the crop comes from, if it's native to the desert, and what it's called. Our hero just smiles and tells Romandro that he already knows the name. When Romandro hears that it's Gula, he dramatically breaks down, overwhelmed with regret for turning down Carlo's earlier offer. He is practically crying over it, but our boy tries to lift his spirits and explains that Gula seeds are actually incredibly useful. They can be cooked in a variety of ways, and their safety, nutritional value, and overall usefulness make them incredibly promising. He even jokes that one day, people might call them a gift from the gods. Romandro, of course, thinks he is exaggerating, but the MC keeps going and shares that he has been eating the seeds himself and believes Romandro will like them too. And since they only take a month to grow, they be in a good spot before winter really sets in. Soon after, their carriage enters the downtown area, and our hero asks the driver to pull over for just a moment. But they don't have to wait long, as Barrick appears almost immediately. He has clearly had a few drinks and declares that the mission has been completed. Our boy can tell that he probably misunderstood the mission, thinking it had something to do with drinking. But Barrick quickly explains himself. The pub owner insisted he drink, and while he had a bit, he still did exactly what the MC asked. He went to the most crowded bar in the area, made sure dozens of people heard the message, and even put up a notice. Romandro looks confused, so our hero fills him in. He explains that earlier he had mentioned the idea of purchasing labor locally. Now, they have officially announced it in Mariloff's town center that for the next month, they are offering 1 gold coin for every 3 bags of gula. Romandro is left speechless. Even Barrick looks a bit unsure, thinking that our boy might be overpaying. But the MC wants the people to take this seriously. He is sure that if they understand the kind of prosperity even a single bag of gula could bring, they will comb through the forests with real effort. What matters most to him is timing. He knows that if he had not added the 1-month rule, people would have already started planting gula, and that is not what he wants just yet. He then turns to Barrick again and asks about Mariloff's current agricultural situation. Barrick explains that it's even worse than last year. Their farming has always been poor, and this time it got worse because the river was further polluted during the fighting near Brack. That made things even more difficult, and now even foreign traders have raised their prices. The MC thinks to himself that if they can gather enough gula, it might flip the tables, and Mariloff could end up proposing a deal themselves. Meanwhile, Romandro watches all of this unfold, sweating in nervous disbelief. He wonders if our hero truly has a plan, and if he does not, then magic user or not, Romandro plans to land a few solid punches. Back at the Brack estate that night, dinner is served to Romandro, and it's entirely made up of gula seed dishes. The head chef nervously admits he only prepared what our boy told him to. He even offers his own life if anything goes wrong, begging Romandro to spare the other cooks and his daughter too. Romandro does not quite know how to comfort him, especially with a meal that looks so unfamiliar, although the colors on the plate are surprisingly pleasant. Before eating, he turns to the MC and asks if the doctor is standing by just in case. But our hero, keeping a straight face, tells him that it's late, and the doctor must have gone home. That nearly sets Romandro off. He scolds him for not being more prepared, only for our hero to laugh and assure him it was just a joke. He tells Ramandro to relax and eat, as it's completely safe. Taking a deep breath, Ramandro finally picks up his spoon, still unsure, and takes a cautious first bite. Ramandro is completely lost in the flavor of the dishes. Watching his expression, the MC signals that it's fine for the others to try some too. Among the group is Hannah, who steps up and takes a bite. She finds the roasted taste surprisingly nice, and the seasoning really brings it all together. Soon after, more servants get curious and line up to try it for themselves. One after another, they take small bites, and each of them is equally shocked. None of them ever thought that something like gula, which everyone considered a weed, could actually taste this good. Our hero wanted exactly this. The servants, after all, are the ones who stay connected with the local people every single day. If they start talking about gula and praising it, that is how word will spread naturally. What starts with a few will turn into dozens, and slowly but surely, it will reach the entire region. Ramandro is blown away by the taste and turns to our boy and asks how he even discovered something like this. The MC just shrugs that it was luck and then goes on to explain a bit more seriously. He talks about how they need to build an insulated storage area somewhere warm, because gula can grow in almost any soil but does not handle cold well. If they store it right, it will help them survive the winter. Deep down, he already has bigger plans in mind. He wants to gather and control as much gula as possible in both Brach and Marilof, while quietly preparing for the colder months ahead. Ramandro shares that if there are no bad side effects after a few days, he plans to mention it in his report to the Imperial Palace. He double-checks with our hero to make sure that is okay. Our boy is more than happy with the idea, and even encourages him to describe how the discovery came about. Ramandro agrees to include the MC's name and also requests another helping of the dishes. But our hero apologizes and tells him they don't have enough yet. He also instructs the staff to keep things quiet until they have collected enough gula seeds. Far away in the Imperial Palace, the Emperor, Clay Veroshin, calls Prince Marev into his chamber. The Emperor mentions that he has not seen Marev in a while and assumes he must have been busy. Marev asks what is going on. The Emperor shares that he had a strange dream the night before in which he saw Carolina, Prince Gale's mother. It had been a long time since she appeared, and in that dream, she asked him to summon Gale. But now that Marev said everything is okay between them, the Emperor decides to believe his words, because he trusts Marev's judgment. After leaving the room, Marev speaks to the head maid and asks if the Emperor's room is being taken care of properly. She assures him everything is fine, but Marev, out of nowhere, slaps her hard across the face. His tone turns threatening as he warns her that if he hears one more strange thing from the Emperor, he will punish everyone in the palace without hesitation. He storms off and asks his aide if there is anything else left on his schedule for the day. The aide tells him no, except for one report from Ramandro, apparently. The details are so unbelievable that Marev really needs to hear them. Marev tells him that he is tired, so he wants him to keep it short. That is when he learns everything. From our boy being a magic user and teaming up with the Heavenly Warriors, to pushing Erica out and taking control of Brach. It's one surprise after another, and Marev quietly heads to his office, realizing the situation is getting more complicated by the day. The next morning in Marilof, two men are having a conversation. One man tells the other to take gula to Brach as they are offering money for it. But the second guy is confused. Gula is just a weed, so he does not understand what they could possibly want it for. The first man admits he does not know the reason, but adds that it's only for 1 month, and that most of the forest nearby has already been picked clean. If he wants to find more, he will have to go deeper into the woods. Meanwhile, in Brach, a man shouts about selling gula. A few nearby lumber workers hear the commotion and joke about it. They cannot believe someone is spending money on weeds, but honestly, they don't care, as it's good business for them either way. Back at the estate, the MC is updated that around 50 bags of gula have been collected that day. It's more than he expected. A worker explains that the growth rate does not change much with different amounts of water, so they are thinking about trying out different types of soil next. Hannah then suggests using soil from the river, but in the middle of all this, she suddenly snaps at Ramandro for eating too many of the seeds, as they barely have enough left for planting. Ramandro admits, a bit embarrassed, that he was not thinking. Just then Barrick shows up. He jokes that our hero must be thinking about Moline, who has been unusually quiet. And he is right. Our boy has been keeping an eye on Moline. The man has not stepped out of his room for a while, but his people are constantly seen wandering nearby. It's obvious that something is being planned, so he decides it's time to get back the magic stone he hid in Moline's room for surveillance. He tells Barrick to pass along a message to Ramandro that Moline's group should be invited to lunch. If they refuse, Barrick is to make it clear that it's a serious meeting and not optional. He also instructs him to retrieve the magic stone while he is at it. Moline does not look too thrilled when our boy suddenly calls them in for a meal out of the blue. But our hero explains that it's simply been a while since he last saw them properly, and he figured it's a good time to check in. Besides, there is something he needs to talk about. Degor tells him to skip the small talk and get to the point, as they are apparently too busy to sit through pleasantries. So, the MC dives right into the topic, the gula crop. Now, Moline already knows what this is about. The rumors have been swirling for a while, and he does not hold back from mocking our hero to his face. He brings up how both Brock and Mariloff are buzzing with gossip, especially about how our boy, a so-called illegitimate son, is throwing away funds on what people think is just a useless weed. And to add fuel to the fire, there are even whispers about him planning to hand over the entire territory to the Heavenly Warriors. But the MC stays composed and shrugs off the gossip as nothing more than foolish rumors. If any of it were true, he declares, then he would not be pouring his energy into rebuilding the territory from the ground up. Nor would he be allowing them all to stay in his estate, eating through his food reserves. That part clearly hits a nerve because Daegor snaps back, offended by the waste comment. Still, our hero stands his ground. He tells them that he does not know who started all these lies, but if people keep spreading falsehoods, then Moline better let them know that he and his allies won't be taking it lightly. At this point, Moline asks if our boy even knows what kind of plant gula really is. The MC claims that he is well aware the plant is poisonous and how it spreads quickly, which is why most people pull it up on sight. But its seeds are not only edible, they are also packed with nutrients. In his eyes, that alone makes it a valuable crop. In fact, he calls it a blessing from the gods. Then he circles back to a conversation from before and reminds Moline of his own words. How nothing in nature is noble or lowly, and how anything that can help stop a famine deserves gratitude. Even the second prince had the same thoughts according to Moline back then. But now that he is putting those words into action, suddenly it's a problem. Moline, feeling backed into a corner, tries to change direction. He claims that even if everything our hero says is true, the people won't accept it. And if he cannot change the general belief that gula is dangerous, then no matter how useful it is, no one will touch it. But our boy is already one step ahead. He has thought about that too. And so, he starts explaining how he plans to shift people's opinions to make them see gula for what it really is. The details of the plan only make Moline angrier. He lashes out and accuses the MC of mocking the imperial family, and warns that if this plan backfires, it could ruin their reputation. Still, our hero does not flinch and reassures him that the seeds are safe and there is no reason to worry. Then, with a touch of irony, he reminds Moline again that it was he who said that leaders are meant to solve crises. And now, when someone is actually trying to do that, he is hiding behind excuses like honor. Moline fires back, twists our hero's words and accuses him of calling the Empire's dignity trivial. But our boy simply asks Moline if dignity and reputation can feed starving people. In the face of hunger and death, he believes all that pride and status mean nothing. And just to be clear, he makes one last point that he is not there asking for permission. And if Moline plans to get in his way, he can pack up and leave the territory right away. That gets Mac riled up enough to shout, calling him disrespectful. But our hero tells him flat out that it's not about disrespect, but about knowing your place. Then he confronts them that while he has been trying to find a way to save people, all they have done is report to the palace and interfere at every step. Romandro senses the argument getting way out of hand and finally steps in. He tries to cool things down and shares that he has tasted the dishes made from gula seeds himself, and to his surprise, they are actually really good. And the best part is that they are easy to prepare. Just then, Barrett gives the MC a subtle thumbs up. That is our hero's cue. He stands and declares that he has said everything he needed to say and warns them if they keep getting in the way. Next time, he won't be so forgiving. With that, he wishes them all a good meal, tells Romandro to come with him, and walks out. Mac shouts again, but he is already gone. Once he is outside, Barrett cannot help but praise him. He tells him he looked really cool back there. Our boy asks about the magic stone. Barrett hands it over, and after returning to the room, our hero places it in a glass of water to listen to the recording. As expected, he hears Moline, Mac, and Daegor talking about him, that he is not loyal to Prince Gale, but he is just obsessed with gaining power. Moline also mentions that if the MC keeps growing stronger, they might have no choice but to get rid of him. Barrett is taken aback by how serious the conversation is, but our hero does not look surprised. He has already guessed this is where things are heading. From their point of view, it makes more sense to remove him than lose the Brack territory, which they have put so much effort into. Barrett asks if he should go deal with them first. But our boy shakes his head because he has a better plan, and he wants to catch them red-handed. Since he has been working constantly and his routine is unpredictable, he figures the perfect chance for an assassin to strike would be nighttime. It also reminds him of his past life, always being on edge. He tells Barrett to stay sharp and not miss anything. He also instructs him to make sure someone is watching Moline's people at all times. The next morning, Romandro is already out at the village site, busy supervising the construction work. He is so tied up with everything that he does not even have time to sit down for a proper meal. So, he keeps snacking on gula seeds to get through the day. Nearby, a few workers who catch sight of this scene begin murmuring among themselves. It's not every day that you see someone like Romandro, a royal advisor from the capital, eating something that looks so plain. They get curious, and some even a little suspicious, wondering what it is he is eating so quietly. One of the workers overhears the whispers and steps in to clear things up. He tells them that what Ramandro is munching on are gula seeds. That catches them off guard. To them, gula has always been a weed, nothing one would ever associate with someone from the capital. The worker shares what he heard just a few days ago. Apparently this whole thing is part of the MC's plan. He is the one who came up with the idea to let certain stories spread about how the Imperial Palace had recently conducted research on staple crops. According to the rumors, gula seeds were found to be not only safe but also full of nutrients and decent in taste. Ramandro, being someone who came from the capital himself, must have known about this in advance, and that is why he started collecting gula in this region. Ramandro, at the time, had asked our boy whether spreading stories like that would really be alright. Our hero had told him not to worry. After all, rumors from the countryside only make their way back to the palace through letters written by people like Ramandro and Molan. That had sparked another idea in our boy's mind about leaking a few extra research results while they are at it. Like how gula seeds can supposedly make skin look better, or help clean the blood, and how they are so rare in the capital that nobody there gets the chance to eat it. Now that exact same story is making its way from one worker to another. The first worker finishes telling it. One of the others, now much more curious than before, suggests they might as well try eating some too. A short distance away, the MC is watching all this unfold, standing quietly with Barrick. Barrick tells him that things are going even better than expected. Word at the local pub is that the Emperor himself is eating gula seeds because he believes they help him live longer. Our boy cannot help but smile to himself, and he knows it's time to move on to the next step. Late at night, under the quiet cover of darkness, two masked figures sneak their way into the greenhouse located within the Brock territory. As they step inside and lay eyes on the gula plants growing steadily, they are convinced more than ever that the rumors floating around about gula being valuable in the capital are true. Their plan is to steal a batch and sell it for a profit. But just when they think they are in the clear, a guard arrives, catching them red-handed. The guard orders them to follow him and ignores their desperate attempts to beg for mercy. Meanwhile, our hero is passing by on his way somewhere with Barrick. He stops when he notices the guards and takes a moment to commend them for doing their job well. The guard respectfully offers to escort our boy, but he declines as he only needs Barrick to come along. He then asks if the people caught are thieves. The intruders start begging for forgiveness and claim that the harvest has been awful lately and that they were just trying to survive. Our hero listens and tells them that had they waited just a bit longer, they could have avoided this. But rules are rules and they cannot go unpunished. So, he orders the guards to lock them up and walks off, leaving them behind. As they continue on, Barrick brings up our boy's earlier plan, the one where he intended to let a few harvests go missing to stir up desire among the people. Barrick wonders if he was trying to make them crave the crop by pretending to guard it poorly. But the MC shakes his head. He knows that kind of strategy might work somewhere like the capital or in more stable regions, but not there. In Brock, where leadership is still unstable, letting thieves roam freely could quickly spiral out of control. So, instead of going down that road, he has another idea in mind, a more efficient and safer approach. They soon arrive at a quiet little house in the village and knock on the door. A sleepy man answers and blinks at the unexpected visitors. His expression changes quickly when he realizes it's our hero standing at his doorstep this late. Our boy tells him to lower his voice so he does not wake the children. The man immediately panics, worried that he has done something wrong. But instead of trouble, the MC surprises him by handing over a pouch filled with gula seeds. He then explains that while the rumors make it sound like gula is some kind of miracle cure, that is not exactly true. However, what is true is that the royal advisor genuinely enjoys eating it for its taste and nutritional value. He goes on to say that even though it's being guarded at the estate, the advisor keeps urging them to spread it throughout the territory as soon as possible. He tells the man that he has heard about how he has been raising 5 kids on his own, and that really touched his heart. That is why he has chosen to give him some seeds early. The man is moved to tears. The MC reminds him to eat only a little and plant the rest. Just one seed can grow into 10 plants. He also asks him to share some with his neighbors so more people can benefit. The man is overwhelmed with gratitude and thanks him from the bottom of his heart before our hero quietly takes his leave. As they continue on, Barrick admits he still cannot figure our boy out. But the MC claims that he always knows exactly what Barrick is thinking, like how, at the moment, he just wants to get back to bed. But then he gets serious again. He talks about how, while the capital's people were hoarding and cultivating gula for themselves, emergency food supplies were dwindling. People in the territory are probably growing more anxious by the day, wondering how they will survive the winter. That is why he has stepped in. By personally handing out gula like this, he plans to position himself as their savior. He can already picture how the people will see him. Barrick, of course, is skeptical. He jokes that people will just call him a shameless trickster. but the MC is sure that they will actually see him as a kind and generous leader. Then he urges Barrack to pick up the pace, as their next stop is a place full of children. And so, throughout the night, he visits various homes, orphans, elderly folks, and struggling families, and gives away more gula seeds. Somewhere nearby, hidden in the shadows, Daegor is spying on them. Later, Daegor reports back that our hero is out and about, freely handing out gula as if he owns the entire territory. Mollin listens carefully and quickly pieces things together. He realizes our boy is using Romandro's good reputation to present himself as the hero who discovered gula and is winning the people's trust. That way, he can gain both public support and favor from the Imperial Palace. But Moline also sees a golden opportunity since the MC is wandering around outside with barely any protection. He thinks it might be the perfect time to get rid of him for good. By the next morning, a meeting is underway with our hero, Romandro, Kakantir, and Nersaren. They talk about the reconstruction of Gilsum village, which is nearing completion. Regarding the distribution of gula, our boy shares that thanks to the early seeds given out and how fast the rumors have spread, they are ready to start a broader release. Romandro asks if he plans to keep going out at night, and he shares that he wants to continue for around 4 more days. Romandro is impressed. He figures magic users must have some powers or something, and our boy's is stamina. With the distribution plan sorted, he asks if there are any final matters to address. That is when Nersaren brings up news that Winchen's health has taken a serious turn, and the situation looks grim. Nersaren explains that, given the current urgency, they have abandoned the idea of cultivating Silusk any further. Instead, they have chosen to make use of the remaining roots they still have on hand. As the conversation unfolds, Romandro joins in and asks about both Winchen's situation and the decision regarding Silusk. Our boy takes a moment and fills him in with everything. Kakantir then adds to the conversation and makes it clear that all the decisions being made are for the sake of Brack's survival. He brings up the customs of the Heavenly Warriors and explains that when one of their key figures, like the leader, the head, or even the vice-head, passes away, the entire clan must isolate themselves for a whole year. Because of that tradition, and considering how old and unwell Vice-Head Winchen is, it's easy to see that they don't have much time left. And once the time comes, they will no longer be able to remain in Brach. The MC shifts the topic and asks Romandro whether there has been any word from the Imperial Palace about the report he sent earlier. Romandro responds that there has not been much of a reply, just a single message, and even that did not contain anything important. But our hero presses a bit and asks specifically if there was a response from Marev. That is when Romandro admits that Marev did send something, though it was brief. In that letter, Marev had simply asked him to keep reporting about the territory carefully. As for the MC's identity as a magic user, the only thing Marev had to say was to keep a close watch on him, and that was the extent of it. Our hero then follows up with another question and wants to confirm if Marev prefers that the next Lord of Brach not have any close ties to Moline's associates or to Gale. Romandro nods and shares that when it comes to people in high positions, those kinds of considerations definitely come into play. That is when our boy lays out his stance that he shares Marev's views, and since he already has a strained relationship with Molin's group, he considers himself a fitting candidate for the position. He does not beat around the bush and directly asks Romandro to recommend him as the new Lord of Brach. From there, he begins to present his case more emotionally. He paints a picture of what could happen if he does not get the title. He explains that without that role, he might have no choice but to return to the Great Desert. Given that he is from Durga's bloodline, whoever is appointed as Lord might see him as a threat and go after him. Worse, there is a real chance that the Imperial Palace could try to control his powers by enslaving him. According to him, the only way to secure both his safety and peace in Brach is to make him the new Lord. He also throws in a bit of logic. He mentions that Romandro, being an advisor, probably wants this entire matter settled quickly so he can return home. And from a public perspective, he argues that no one else is as suitable for the job as he is. Romandro listens carefully and cannot really deny what the MC is saying. He is fully aware that our hero stepped up and led the reconstruction efforts when no one else did. And more than that, our boy was the one who discovered Gula. Of course, Romandro knows that he still lacks some of the qualities expected of someone who rules over a frontier territory, but he decides to speak openly. He explains that Marev does not fully understand the kind of relationship he and Molin have. After all, our hero reported his own father through Molin, and Molin had supported the idea of appointing a new lord. On top of that, being a magic user means our boy will almost certainly become connected to the Ministry of Magic. Considering that, and how he is already working with the Second Prince, Gale likely expects him to be one of his key supporters. Hearing all this, the MC makes another suggestion. He proposes to meet with Marev personally because he believes that no matter how detailed the reports are, there are always things that cannot be explained with just words. But just in case that does not work out, he offers to prove himself then and there by taking a stand against Moline's faction, even if it means risking his life. Ramandro agrees to deliver our hero's message to Merev and decides to end the meeting for the day. Our boy thanks him and then asks one last thing. If Ramandro knows about any groups trading Salask through middlemen. Ramandro admits this is the first time he is hearing of it but promises to look into it, though he is not sure how far he will get. The MC appreciates it, but he knows deep down that if neither Ramandro, who is an imperial advisor, nor he himself, a former emperor, knows much about it, then finding any leads in burial won't be easy. As the meeting comes to a close, Ramandro tells our hero to take care of himself and get some rest. Our boy nods. Thanks everyone, then turns to Barrack and decides to head out right away. Later that night, the MC arrives in the village and notices that a few people are still awake. He apologizes that he was not able to bring anything for them that evening. But one of the men quickly reassures him that it's all right and they are just grateful for all the help he has been giving them, especially while staying out of the palace's sight. Still, a woman insists that our hero better bring more next time, and she expects to be first in line. As they prepare to head back, Barrack suddenly stops and starts looking around cautiously. In a quiet voice, he warns our boy that assassins are nearby. The MC tells him to move quickly. But before they can get far, 3 men appear behind them and ask if the man they are looking at is our hero. The moment it gets confirmed, they launch an attack. Barrack reacts instantly and blocks the blow. Just then, another attacker leaps from above. Our boy catches the movement in time and shouts a warning. Barrack dodges and counterattacks immediately. As the MC watches the fight unfold, he notices that the way these men fight with their sword skills and how they control their distance makes it clear they are not random thugs, but that they have been trained. Not only that, but the fact that they seem to know how strong Barrack is suggests they are connected to Moline directly. He tells Barrack to try to keep at least one of them alive. Barrack smirks and asks if he is allowed to cut one up a bit, just not fatally. Then our hero suddenly realizes that if they are aware of Barrack's skills, they should also know that he is a magic user, so he finds it suspicious that no one tried to target him directly. His thoughts are cut short by the sound of approaching footsteps. He turns around and sees an entire group of thugs waiting for him. They asks whether he is the one they are looking for, and the MC confirms it and unleashes his magic. At first, the MC felt like it was taking unusually long, and he could not help but wonder why. But now it becomes clear to him that Moline has been gathering quite a number of people behind the scenes. He asks them what their reason is for doing all this and whether they really don't care about their lives. One of the thugs cuts him off and tells him to shut his mouth. He boldly declares that he should just hand over his life quietly and claims that his dead body would fetch them a good price. He then lunges straight at our hero with full force, but our boy moves out of the way without breaking a sweat. Using his magic-covered hand, he grabs the man by the face, and in just a second, the thug collapses. Before anyone can react, another one charges at him. The MC dodges again, grabs the attacker's wrist mid-swing, and with a twist, the dagger falls to the ground. He releases another burst of magic, and the man stumbles back, coughing up blood before falling to the floor. Now, with 2 of their own down, the rest of the group freeze for a moment. Our hero figures out pretty quickly that they are all commoners and asks if they are from Brach, but no one gives an answer. Our boy then warns them that he is not great at holding back his strength, so if they still want to try their luck, they are welcome to step forward. One of the thugs, clearly shaken by what just happened, starts to back away slowly, but another one calls him a coward and tries to rally the others. He tells them to stop hesitating and reminds them that they have got the advantage in numbers. He gives the signal, and they all move in at once, but just as they do, Barrack jumps in. With an irritated look on his face, he takes them down with ease. He is clearly annoyed about how he should have been asleep at this hour instead of dealing with this mess. The MC checks in and asks if any of the assassins are left alive. Barrack nods and tells him that he made sure they are still breathing. Our hero then places his hand on Barrack and transfers some of his magic to him and tells him to make sure at least one of the thugs stay alive. The moment Barrack feels the rush of magic, he perks up and grins. The magic feels like a drug to him, and he laughs and enjoys the power boost. Our boy asks if he is actually listening to the instructions. Barrack nods and assures him that he is, then charges off again. The remaining thugs don't even get a proper chance to run. One by one, Barrack chases them down and takes care of them. They scream about how crazy he is, completely terrified by the way he fights. But from where the MC stands, it does not make much sense because all he sees is Barrack smiling brightly. Barrack, strangely enough, is in a surprisingly good mood after wiping out a group of thugs in the middle of the night. On the other side, our boy shifts his focus to the one person who is still left alive. Something about the guy seems familiar. He studies him closely and tries to place where he has seen him before. He calls Barrack over and asks if the face rings a bell. Barrack takes a look, but instead of recognizing the man, he calls the guy just plain ugly. The man then instantly covers his face, and that reaction only draws more suspicion from our hero. especially when he catches a slight glint on the man's finger, something metallic, shining faintly in the dark. But before he can act, the man's hand goes to his own face, and within seconds, it starts to melt. The MC realizes that it's the work of a special poison, one often used by trained assassins. It destroys any trace of their identity before capture. He then instructs Barrick to call the guards and decides to carry the unconscious man and another injured one back to the estate. Back inside the estate, the atmosphere is completely different. It's tense and filled with worry. Mac is anxious about the outcome of the mission, clearly fearing the worst. His nerves are getting the better of him. Daegor, however, remains oddly calm. He assures Mac that everything will be fine. After all, the ones they sent are not amateurs. They are former Imperial guards trained in the capital and experienced in this kind of work. But Mac does not find that reassuring. He snaps, frustrated by Daegor's laid-back attitude. He warns him that if things do go wrong, they cannot afford to be caught without a solid backup plan. His voice rises without him realizing it, echoing around the room until Moline finally intervenes. He tells Mac to lower his voice before someone overhears something they shouldn't. Mac quickly apologizes. Moline then brings up Petreo, the man they entrusted with the mission. He reassures Mac that Petreo might be getting older, but he is still more skilled than most. As the former vice-captain of the prince's personal guard, he has both the experience and the loyalty needed for a task like this. According to Moline, if anyone could carry out a clean ambush in a quiet valley, it would be Petreo. He is confident that our boy and Barrick would not have made it out alive. They just need to be patient and wait for the results. But just as he finishes speaking, there is a loud knock on the door. It's sharp and sudden and catches all three of them off guard. Mac freezes mid-step and cautiously wonders out loud if it's Petreo. The door creaks open slowly, and there, standing in the doorway, is Barrick. His clothes are stained with blood, and he is holding his sword in one hand. Without much of a pause, Barrick tells them to get up and follow him. Daegor tries to protest, but Barrick does not give him the chance. In one swift move, he brings his sword up and presses it against Daegor's neck. He tells them that our hero gave him full permission. If he wants, he can kill them right there without hesitation. Daegor protests that they are men of the Imperial Palace, but Barrick pushes the sword in just a little closer and tells him that under the MC's command, titles don't carry much weight there, and things work differently.